Part 326. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3265. Jia Yan would not be on the same ship with two people of the same rank who were preparing for war. Even the closest people would not do this. After all, no matter how close masters of the same rank were, they would have a certain influence on the two sides' minds. If the other party was let off because of this, after losing the battle, Jia Yang was in trouble. "Dad, I'll go too." "This, okay, you get on the ship." Faced with Jia Makiao's request, Jia Yan only thought about it for a moment and agreed. After all, he was just watching the battle. With his ability, he was still in the galaxy, so he could protect his daughter no matter what. Allowing them to see the battles of top players is also an opportunity to broaden their horizons. After these warships had left, the spaceships from deep within the trade area arrived. "My grandpa and the others are gone again? Alas, they are all waiting for us to come." Jia Rong and Jia 11's father and son arrived, but they were one step behind. They are destined to never see the grand experience of this life and death battle between top experts. "Dad, who do you think will win?" Following closely behind the two battleships, Jia Makiao felt extremely uncomfortable with the overall size of the Milky Way, so he changed the subject and chatted with Jia Yan in order to get used to it. "Tell me about it." Jia Yan did not respond directly, but threw the question back to his daughter. "If you ask me, the winner should be Senior Haitian. He has so many fulfillments that he won't lose." Jia Makiao obviously voted for the acquaintance of the young strong man who was more familiar with him. Jia Yan smiled and shook his head. Jia Makiao was startled and asked, "Dad, do you think the winner is me?" Jia Yan shook his head again, but this time he didn't show off. These two are both top masters, and they are both in the galaxy where their strength can be fully displayed. One is young and powerful, and the other has profound knowledge. As for me, I am afraid that if they talk about life and death, it will be a lose-lose result for both of them. Huh. Jia Makiao felt bad and said in confusion, "Don't the two seniors know this? Why are they still fighting?" Jia Yan sighed, "This is another reason why I brought you here today, that is to tell you that although the top masters are usually aloof, they are also living beings. Normally you think these strong men are calm and wise, then you are not qualified to make them really angry. Today's situation is that the two masters are very emotional. If you look at their reasons for life and death, they are actually no different from ordinary people." Jia Makiao understood and was thoughtful. To put it bluntly, the reason why she feels superior to the masters is because she is too weak. From the perspective of a weak person, even her father will have an aura of being strong. But Senior Haitian was pretty good to me. It would be a pity if he died like this. Jia Yan did not respond directly, but said calmly, "An old man of that age has already reached his death date. Even if he wins this battle, will he really be able to succeed if he goes back and tries to break through? The probability of this is too low. In space, there is no light in the strict sense. But the ubiquitous brilliance of stars at least allows the strong to see things simply." Two warships in the trade area were anchored deep in the starry sky, and then two figures flew out from the warships. These two figures may not be much in the other world, but in the galaxy, they can be said to be huge behemoths. The two parties each chose a certain position to stand, and just watched each other from a distance. It wasn't the tense situation as imagined, but a variety of complex emotions intertwined. After all, it was said to be a blood feud, but thousands of years have passed since the incident, and even some of the details may not be remembered clearly, not to mention that there were many variables and changes in mood during the process. After the impulse passes, there is always a cooling off period. "What? Boy, don't you want to fight me?" Hai Tian said with a sinister smile. It fits his star thief and gangster setting very well. Shawo looked at the sea and the sky indifferently, his expression became calm. I was just wondering why you let me go in the first place. Who knows, it's been too long, maybe letting an ant go is just a matter of a thought. Recommended, Yeguo reading and chasing books is really useful, download it here, you can try it soon. Shawo suddenly asked, when I investigated the incident, I learned that you happened to have a son who was born at that time. What happened to the son now? The face of the old strong man Haitian suddenly turned extremely ugly. Fight if you want, why bother talking? He, old man, in the next 100 years, you killed thousands of your descendants, and now you are alone in your old age. Don't you have even a trace of regret? Humph. Haitian's whole body suddenly bloomed with bright brilliance, and one arm enlarged like a balloon. Are you so angry when your hurt points are mentioned? Sure enough, no matter how long a wicked person lives, he is still a wicked person in his heart. The whole body of the man who refused to give in to me was shaken. His body could not be said to have changed much, but his aura was rapidly increasing. After thousands of years, it's time to end this grudge and hatred. The two stopped talking to each other, and their eyes showed the dangerous aura of a real top master in a state of battle, and they suddenly rushed towards each other. Boom! The majestic sound of fighting washed through the starry sky. Let's try the skills I have learned in the other world over the years. Hai Tianxian was solemn, and a certain artistic conception suddenly flashed between his claws. It's just that the foundation of Dao power has expired. I don't know how many opponents I have solved. Shawo was obviously not intimidated by his words, and shook his body with a look of disdain, which actually dispersed the shallow Tao power released by Hai Tian. What a great skill! Hai Tian felt his heart shrink. The Taoist techniques he used came from the mainland of the other world. This technique was the culmination of decades of research. He deliberately adopted a large number of techniques from the other world and the Milky Way. Taken together, it is also effective in the Milky Way. But how long has it been since the other party entered the galaxy and has mastered the ability to deal with this kind of technique? It's not that being alienated really makes him stronger. Nowadays, most older people will find that teenagers have the strongest energy and ability to toss. He is just an old man whose energy has long been exhausted, and many things are beyond his ability. When I was young, I was probably more tossing than I was. Therefore, he suffered the disadvantage this time because his research was shallower than the other parties. Puff. The sound of power breaking through the defensive shield sounded. The sea and the sky keep retreating. Your strength should be much more than this. Are you really this old? I look unhappy. Defeating such an opponent is meaningless even for the strong. That's right, I'm so old. What's wrong? Do you want to pity me? I advise you to put away this hypocritical kindness. We still don't know who will win. Haitian's verbal retaliation was not an indiscretion, but a response with practical actions. A large amount of energy burst out from the surface of his body, and overwhelming momentum surged out, and he had a head-on confrontation with Shawo. The difference this time was that the attacks of both sides were evenly matched, and no one took advantage. This old man really has two brushes. I restrained my contempt. The fight between the two sides can be described as world-class. It's such a pity that the hero dies so late. Only we can appreciate his last moments. Dad, didn't you say that they are about the same strength? Why it's not a draw, I really can't understand. So, you are still a child, so keep reading. As for why, just leave it to yourself and think about it later. One day you will be able to draw your own conclusions. Oh. Jiao Makiao nodded without knowing why, looking confused. This fierce battle, as Jia Yan said, is a battle that only belongs to top masters. It is also a battle that allows Jiao Makiao to realize the fighting methods and fighting determination of high-level experts. For her, observing this battle is equal to it was an eye-opener, as if the door to a new world had been opened. For Jia Yan, who is at the same level, this battle has also given him endless gains. It is not about material gains in the actual sense, but about gains in knowledge and self-determination. Through the battle between the two, he was able to see his true nature, figure out the problems he had accumulated over the years, and make further progress. Maybe the overall gains of the two of them would not be greater than Jia Yan's. Who says that a strong man must fight against others personally to gain something from the battlefield? In fact, watching other people's fierce battles between life and death is also one of the ways to gain insights that is as effective as being there in person. Of course, compared to fighting people in person, the effect is still far behind, but it depends on the situation. For example, in Jia Yan's current situation, due to the lack of peers with whom to communicate, many kinds of insights are stuck at critical junctures. After watching the battle between two people of the same level on the battlefield, I had a strong auxiliary concept for many of his cultivation concepts and breakthrough thoughts. The result was like a window paper that was broken with a poke, and he directly entered the next dimension. So strong, Dad, can you really compare with them? Ahem. Jia Yan's huge mosquito body coughed violently, but he didn't choke. He looked at his daughter in disbelief and said helplessly, "Daughter, are you a little too ambitious and other people's ambitions destroy your own prestige? Your father is not very strong. Do you believe in your father's skills?" "I believe you, but they are too strong, Dad. Are you really that strong?" Jia Yan was speechless for a while, thinking about when he would have to make a big face in front of his daughter. Otherwise, what would happen if his daughter regarded him as a relatively weak junior domain lord? No matter who is stronger, your father, me or them, this battle is their swan song, so watch it. Oh, Jia Makiao didn't understand. Why are you looking at this for yourself? Her strength is far from this level. Even if she sees it, it is just a light and shadow effect, just like watching a movie special effects. After a while, a wave of energy that is enough to destroy all life forms on a living planet explodes. Other than that, she couldn't understand anything. The roar and thunder in the sky continued for a day and a night. The battle between the two sides never stopped for a second from the beginning. It can be said that there was no irritation in the whole process, and there was no fighting process that dragged out the plot and enriched the story. Jia Yan also watched it with relish for a whole day. Jia Makiao was different. After watching the film for the first 10 hours, he started to have a splitting headache. For her, this level of battle is still too complicated, and even a literary girl cannot accept so much content at the same time. So with Jia Yan's permission, she simply became a quiet girl reading a book next to her instead of staring at the battlefield. There are many similar situations. Even if masters below the domain lord level can barely watch the entire battle process, they will not be able to remember it, let alone digest it for their own use, and may even endanger their cultivation path. This is a strong person. If you are strong enough to a certain level, even if you try to observe and imitate it, it will be difficult for you to achieve it. But Jia Yan is other than that. Those two guys really want to separate life and death. Jia Yan silently looked at the battlefield, his eyes hesitant. To be honest, he didn't want to watch these two people die. One of them was a collaborator who had signed an agreement with Trade Kai. To put it bluntly, it was some kind of alliance. He had not returned any favors that he had done to help the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce fight the invaders. The other one is Senior Haitian, who is said to have been the leader of the Star Thieves who did all kinds of evil, but he has nothing to do with Jia Yan. The two sides have some inexplicable friendship that lasts for many years, but of course there is not much more. Dad, what's going on with the two seniors? Are they going to compete? Jia Makiao put down his book and asked curiously. Jia Yan shook his head, no, but it's almost the same. If we don't tell the difference, the old man you said is a good person will die. Ah. Dad, will the old man really die? He is quite good to me. You can't let me interfere. These two are not just ordinary people. If I intervene and they hate my move, the future trade zone will inexplicably have a powerful enemy. Do you think it doesn't matter? /U003C/P/U003E. Mosquito was startled and quickly shook his head. That's not what I meant, Dad. You can see for yourself, I don't have a particularly good relationship with my senior. Oh? Does that mean the relationship is pretty good? But, it's not that good. Yan's giant mosquito foot suddenly touched the top of his daughter's head and whirled gently twice. Since it is my daughter's request, how can I refuse as a father? Just wait. Huh? I didn't. Mosquito was stunned and wanted to say that he didn't really want to help Senior Yan. But Yan was talking to himself and had already taken action. Who? Subspace cracks. Next to the fighting circle in the distance, space cracks suddenly appeared simultaneously. It's like the world has pressed the freeze button. The screen freezes. The sound was completely silent. Even the two masters in the battle couldn't help but shift their eyes due to the sense of dissonance. From the crack in subspace, a slender and elegant foot stretched out. Puff. 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 The feet are facing the outside world, step by step, slowly but really quickly. The two people in the battle were still in the same condition as when they were fighting. The giant mosquito that came out of the subspace was glowing with a sky-shattering blue light. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3266. Boy, why don't we just let it go? Countless circle-shaped halos suddenly burst out from the surface of its body. The whole world seemed to be filled with blue in an instant. Pang pong pong. Just as the attacks from both sides fell, Yan burst out with a large amount of formation power, blocking all their attacks. The two of them felt that their hatred was about to split. They fought with each other all day long. They knew very well that neither of them had the ability to withstand the other's attack so easily. But Yan, who appeared out of nowhere, endured it. And it was done so effortlessly, seemingly effortlessly. Both of them were stunned by Yan's actions and were stunned for a moment. Yan, what are you doing? I promised you beforehand that you would not hinder this duel. I look gloomy. As a young and powerful man, he definitely has much more chances of winning than his opponent. Fighting for a day is a common occurrence for masters of their level. Which strong person can instantly determine the winner when fighting an evenly matched enemy? Monsters like Yan can often defeat their enemies and decide the outcome quickly by using their talent in subspace. The two masters were a little surprised at this time. None of them thought that Yan would be involved in this dispute. There was no need or reason. You two, after all, you are fighting in my trade area. No matter who has an accident, I will still have to bear part of the responsibility in the end. So I thought about it and jumped out to make peace. If you give me this, it's not too late to give up the fight temporarily and fight again when the time is right. The old strong man Yan always looked quite calm and composed. Yan, you are not that easy to be a peacemaker. I am old and have nothing to be particular about. But this little friend who is estranged from me is not a friendly person. You still have cooperation with them, right? If they join forces to do something for you next, don't regret it. I never regret my actions. Yan took a deep look at Yan and stopped talking. He knew that Yan was sincerely prepared to take action. Although he didn't know the reason, he still had to accept this feeling. If the fight continues, he will definitely die. Win or lose, his lifespan has come to an end. Now that his strength has not been exhausted, it means that he still has a glimmer of hope. Although this glimmer of hope is not much, it does not prevent Yan from really giving this chance. Yan, do you know what you are doing? There is no sadness or joy in my face. Your Excellency Shao, I know what I am doing, and I hope that your Excellency Xiaowo will sell me some face. Besides, you have also seen Haitian's condition. The probability of Xiaoyuan coming to an end is as high as 99%. You have also had sex with him. It's just one game, why take risks for such a dying person, Jia Yan said. I fell silent. Jia Yan's words really touched his heart. You must know that he still has at least thousands of years to live. It would be too uneconomical to fight to the death with Hai Tian, who is about to die here. Even if there are any permanent injuries left, it will be his loss. Instead of doing something to completely resolve those childhood obsessions, at most what remains are some unwilling psychological knots. If the fight continues, for a strong man like him, it will be just the most unnecessary battle of spirits. The kind of person who would be ridiculed by his peers when he died, saying that he was seeking his own death. Fighting a life and death battle with a dying lunatic is something that only a fool would do. If it were him, he would laugh at the fool who was killed by the old man when he heard such news. He doesn't want to be that kind of ridiculed protagonist. Humph, Haitian, we will never see each other again. I hope you die somewhere. Hey, I don't need to worry about where I am, little kid. Hai Tian snarled harshly, causing Na Xiaowo's face to twitch, and he almost came forward to fight with him again. But he always endured it. In the previous battle, Hai Tian had always taken the initiative between the two, because he had no fear of life or death. But Hai Tian is different. His expectations for life and preparation for death are always impossible to compare with a dying person like Hai Tian. Jia Yan watched Xiaowo crossing the river and finally looked back at Jia Yan, indicating that his resentment towards Jia Yan was not as great as he imagined. To prevent him from having a life and death battle with a man who was about to die of old age, I owe Jia Yan a debt of gratitude. Because if he wins, he gets nothing, but if he loses, he will be dragged into hell by an old man and die together. Senior Haitian, how is your injury? Do you want to go back to the trade area for treatment? Haha, thank you for your kindness. My injury is not serious, but if it weren't for you, I might have died by your side. Let's do this. The probability of my death is very high, and I may not see you again in the future. There are some things here that I just don't need, and you probably don't like them too much. It just so happens that your daughter has a good relationship with me, so why don't you just leave it to her, as I would like to express my gratitude for your help. /U003C/P/U003E. No, okay. It's not good. Hai Tian looked at Jia Yan, making Jia Yan feel a little embarrassed. Take it, and delay it any longer. My life will really be over. Then I will blow myself up in front of you and be buried with you. Who asked you to delay my time? Thank you, senior. Jia Yan quickly caught some of the material packages sent by the other party. Don't underestimate these things. Some of them are the treasure addresses and keys of the other party in the other world. Secondly, some of them are the locations of important warehouses of materials in the galaxy and how to open them. Priceless. Of course, it is impossible for others to give you something truly valuable. Such a strong man, let alone a glimmer of hope, would definitely bring the most important things into the coffin even if he didn't. Even Jia Yan is the same. Don't leave anything to his heirs. Any strong man thinks that he still has the possibility of living until the moment of actual death. After all, they have experienced too many life and death situations in their lives. Too much. If I gave away all my belongings every time, I might be begging for food on the street by now. Just accept what your senior gives you. Okay. At the end of the battle, at Jia Yan's signal, Jia Makiao flew to the center of the battle circle and obediently accepted the package sent by his senior. But there was joy that could not be concealed on her little face. With her father's temperament, except for some supplies in the package that could be used by the lower ranks of domain lords, the rest would definitely not be taken away from his daughter. Maybe she can become a little rich woman by relying on something that a top powerhouse looks down upon. Then farewell. Senior, I hope there will be a day when we meet again. Mosquito also said quickly, old senior, can we meet again? Hey, I didn't expect anyone to miss me before I die. Whether we can see you again depends on fate. Let's go. Hai Tian had a relaxed smile on his face, as if it was not a separation of life and death, but a simple departure after being a guest. It wasn't until his figure turned into a small dot in the distant sea of stars that Jia Yan turned around with a sigh. Dad, will Senior Haitian really die? Mosquito couldn't help but ask. Jia Yan nodded, yes, if the probability of his death before the war was 90%, then no matter what kind of treasure he got, the probability of death now is more than 99%, and almost infinite is the inevitable result. Doesn't that mean, this is the last time that Senior Haitian meets us? What a pity. Senior obviously knows so much, but I haven't asked him properly yet. The memory of strong people is amazing. The longer a strong person lives, the greater the amount of knowledge recorded in his brain. Many people say that the impression that strong people are getting old is false. It is nothing more than the brain receiving too much. After gaining knowledge, he was overwhelmed and led to physical death. From this, we can also see how terrible the knowledge of an old man who is on the verge of death from old age and who has run out of oil has a terrifying amount of knowledge. The time spent communicating with Hai Tian was a very happy day for Mosquito. This kind of thing will happen many times in the long lifeline of you and me. In this galaxy, the top masters are all older and stronger. If every chance encounter develops into an unforgettable, Dad, I'm worried that your emotions won't be able to hold up for such a long time, and you will collapse in these unforgettable memories, so remember, just get used to this kind of thing. Okay. Mosquito wanted to say whether her father was a little cold-blooded, but when the words came to her lips, she couldn't say them out. It's not that he's afraid of his father's anger, but that looking back on the past, no one can say that his father is ungrateful or an emotionless person. Many of his actions reveal that this top powerhouse is a rare person who values love and justice. He said this, maybe something happened, and his father would act in an emotional way regardless of his own safety. Why are you laughing? Jia Yan asked. I'm not laughing at anything. I thought of something funny. Mosquito couldn't help it and burst into laughter. How dare you laugh at your father? No, I'm not laughing at you. You're overthinking. Mosquito hurriedly defended, but the shrug of his shoulders made Jia Yan see the dishonesty of his daughter. Okay little guy, go back and confiscate all your gains to see if you dare to laugh at the strongest man in the trade area. Wow, Dad, you are using your power for personal gain. No, okay, let's go back and deal with you, and let your brother and Xiao 11 see how embarrassed you are. No, it would be too embarrassing for Xiao 11 to see my aunt in such an embarrassing state. You little brat. Xiao 11 even saw you with a runny nose many times when you were a child, and I never saw you feeling embarrassed. Why are you afraid of this now? Isn't that something that happened when I was a kid? It's force majeure. I don't want it anyway. You have to take it even if you don't want it. Let's see how your father tells them about your embarrassing things one by one. Oh. Dad, you are bullying me, but I thought you were quite handsome just now. Why am I not handsome? If you hadn't said that Dad might not be as good as those two, your dad wouldn't have meddle in other people's business, okay? You still say that I'm not handsome. Huh? It turns out the reason is that simple. Yes, it's that simple. Why don't you, because of the strong men, have to perform palace scheming before 2 battles? This. Mosquito always felt that these strong men were completely different from what he imagined. In a sense, the worship and blind trust in the masters also collapsed. Of course, this is what Jia Yan wants to achieve. Since the daughter takes care of herself half the time, she must educate her well. Otherwise, what will happen if the wife sees that her daughter is bad at learning and accuses herself? Of course, the son she brought up was not that good, otherwise why would he have stared at her father with hostility when he was young? Wow, Dad, here are the cultivation materials from the other world given by seniors. I won't give them to you. I don't lack anything. These things that are not even used by the galaxy level are just rubbish to your father. This one is also very powerful. There is a sign on it that says this is a piece of enlightenment from the other world. What? An object of enlightenment? It's dangerous to hand this thing to a child. Dad, help you keep it? Ah. Keep it again. If you want to grab it, just say so. It's not like I won't give it. I told you to keep it for you, so I will keep it for you, and I will return it to you when you need it. Anyway, you must have forgotten it again. Among the warships on their way back, Jia Makiao looked happy. Jia Yan on the side was supervising the whole process. If he came across something worthy of his hand, no matter whether it was of great value or not, he would snatch it from his daughter. This is probably the top master who is least like a late-level domain master. Steal gifts from others with your daughter. This is... Suddenly, Jia Yan's face became frightened. What? Jia Makiao was holding something just taken out of the package. To a human like Jia Makiao, the package of Haitian is just like a big mountain, isn't it? The objects taken out were all the size of a small mountain. At this moment, she was carrying a small mirror-like object that was not too big but had a diameter of several hundred meters. Recommended, Yeguo reading and chasing books is really useful. Download it here, you can try it soon. Without saying a word, Jia Yan accepted the mirror, looked at it for a moment and smiled bitterly. Haitian is really generous, but he is about to die. It is difficult for me to repay this favor even if I am. What and what? Jia Makiao was still a little confused. In other words, this mirror is a valuable treasure, and your father has great use for it. Ah. Then, I'll give it to you. Jia Makiao threw the mirror out with some reluctance. But the mirror flew halfway back along its original path and landed firmly in Jia Makiao's hands. No need. Although this mirror is useful for your dad, it is also good for you. I'm afraid he has already considered this. You should practice hard and don't let down the kindness of your senior. If there is any future, if you have reached a level where your strength is not lower than the domain lord level, you can find the descendants of the senior. If you can take good care of him, take good care of him, otherwise the kindness will be lost. /U003C/P/U003E. Okay. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3267. Jia Makiao didn't know what kind of gourd his father was showing off, but he knew that the treasure in his hand must be a peerless treasure. Senior Haitian is really a courageous man. He knew that he was not going to die soon, so he engaged in treasure diplomacy. Now not only my daughter, but also myself owe a debt of gratitude. After Jia Yan looked at the mirror for a few times, he turned his gaze away and sighed at the person's willingness. I don't know what's going on with Senior Haitian at this time. As the day and night pass, the sequelae should probably come out. He had no special feelings about this old man. To him, this person was just an ordinary strong man he met on the road, and his relationship was not very good, but he still paid a little attention to him because of his last-minute benefit to his daughter. But that's about it. He will not go out to find someone to help him, because that will only offend Shawo. After all, whether from the perspective of cooperative relationship or future development prospects, Shawo is more suitable for making good friends. Hoo hoo, hee, I can actually die in a place like this. In the dark depths of the universe, an old strong man was soaring aimlessly in the space. He is a bit bitter, and he likes to play exciting and dangerous things in life, and he also makes a lot of money from these extreme practices. To put it bluntly, he has a deviant temperament. This is why he became a star thief and why he did so many evil things. In the past, I always won more than I lost, but once I failed, it was a huge failure, such as at the end of Star Thieves, or this time I only came out of the world at the last moment. He came out at the last moment because he wanted to get as much benefit from the other world as possible, and his lazy nature was clearly revealed. But this time, just like when he decided to become a star thief before, he made the wrong decision again. No matter how top-notch a person is, he can't be expected to have such an early disaster explosion, right? If he had been able to reckon with what happened thousands of years ago and have it reflect back today, he would not have reached the point where he is now homeless in this life. The person finally stumbled and flew into an uninhabited star. There are too many similar stars in the edge areas of the universe, and it is impossible for every one of them to be inhabited and developed. It was actually not far from the trade area. He wanted to go further before stopping, but his vitality could not last that long. I don't know if this meditation will prevent me from waking up. There was a smile on his sarcastic lips, and he gradually closed his eyes. Immediately, a large amount of energy storm appeared on the star, enveloping his entire body into it. Soon everything was calm, and the universe fell back into its original state of silence, which was terrifyingly quiet. Maybe the day when the storm dissipates is either the day when he succeeds, or the day when he dies completely. In short, the probability is low. But one thing is certain, no matter whether it succeeds or not, in the coming days, Haitian, the old and veteran star thief, will disappear for a long time. Clang. Hiss, it's really strong. Jia 11 looked at the blue energy sword in her hand with some surprise. Standing proudly in front of him was a young girl with a youthful face but an extremely alluring figure. Auntie, I haven't tried it for several years, but your strength has improved tremendously. That's because your strength is improving too slowly. But Aunt, you are still much younger than me. You can't defeat me now. Jia 11 turned a blind eye to the woman's gorgeous face. After all, she was the little girl he had watched since childhood. Recommended, Yeguo reading and chasing books is really useful. Download it here, you can try it soon. Due to family kinship, he had to call her aunt for the sake of courtesy, but in his heart, he regarded this little girl as his junior. Now he is even more unwilling to lose to a little girl who is like a junior. He doesn't talk about face issues. He just says that he has practiced for so many years and has become the owner of the formation gene. He should reflect on himself if he loses. Look at my formation sword. Jia 11 unleashed a powerful swordsmanship, and saw the formation sword in her hand emitting brilliant brilliance and bursting out with shock waves. Jia Mo happened to have some free time, and she had a black god long sword in her hand that was once used by the black god Jia Yan, which had several attributes. With a shake of his hand, the sword technique was like gentle breeze and drizzle. Different from Jia 11's sword technique, this sword technique was not so focused on lethality at all. At first glance, it seemed to be a bit defensive and extremely conservative. Auntie, although your sword skills are good, you can't win if you just focus on defense. Who said that? Jia Makiao raised her eyebrows moved, and a ripple moved in the depths of her eyes. The sword technique suddenly changed its approach, bringing with it a strong lethality. Hey, I've been tricked as expected. Auntie, you're still a little too young. Jia 11 chuckled. He thinks that he will win again this time. Although the victory is not so happy, in the next few years, he will maintain his undefeated record against his young aunt, so that he can show his prestige in front of his family. This is the only wish he wants to achieve. After all, the ant in front of her was a genius that even her grandfather praised personally. It was very likely that she would catch up with her in a few years. Among the people on Earth, Gia-11's talent can be said to stand proudly at the pinnacle of all human beings, and almost no one can match it. But if you want to compare with who, if you throw it into the entire galaxy, then you can't talk about top geniuses. Maybe even the ordinary geniuses in the central star field of the galaxy can't compare. The limit of a lifetime, as Jia Yan once asserted, is the top of the galaxy. There is a slim possibility of entering the Domain Lord class. Going up to that level is completely impossible unless reincarnated and recultivated. But Jia Makiao is different. Jia Yan said that she is the most talented among his descendants, so her talent is at least starting from the galaxy, and the possibility of becoming a territory lord is not small. As for whether she can go further, it is difficult to say, but there is always a chance. Because after entering the territory lord level, what matters is no longer pure talent. Opportunity and personal character are equally important. This competition is a competition to determine whether Gia-11 will officially abdicate in the next few years and make way for the most talented among his descendants. It is said to be a competition, because it is mixed with these things and becomes relatively formal. Even Jia Yan is watching here distractedly. This kid has made great progress recently. His talent in formation has led him to the path of swordsmanship. I wonder if he was influenced by movies and TV series. Jia Rong watched from the sidelines with some relief. No matter whether his son or sister wins, he is happy to see the result. There is no preference for anyone. Although the son is his son, the sister is also a relative who is younger than the son, so it is natural to take care of her. It won't take a few years for them to catch up with me, right? Over the years, I have worked hard to climb to the top of the venerable. I will almost enter the semi-star level, but the real time will not be much earlier than them. Jia Rong has a very clear definition of himself. The so-called passion and the so-called vow to surpass his father were shattered in the face of the cruel reality. His only wish now is to let his sister and son get better training, and finally let the Jia family have a stronger one. A master, instead of relying on his father Jia Yan alone to support him. After all, his father's identity is too sensitive, and his relationship with the Jia family is too complicated. Now it has appeared that Jia Yan is no longer willing to treat the descendants of the Jia family favorably. In the future, God knows whether Jia Yan will become a hands-off shopkeeper. I am afraid there will definitely be many characters who want to cause trouble for the Jia family. As long as new masters continue to appear, the Jia family will be able to feel at ease. Ding. Good guy, Ant, did you find a famous master in the other world to learn your swordsmanship? I always feel that the charm is different from what our Jia family learned. Yes, Dad helped me find a few famous locals in the world. Their monastic swordsmanship and understanding of swordsmanship just make up for some of the deficiencies in our galaxy. No wonder, what a powerful move, you broke my swordsmanship. Gia-11 showed an expression of sudden realization. The azure blue sword he held in his hand suddenly changed, turning into layers of blue halo that covered his fist. Auntie, be careful next time. This is a combination of formation and boxing techniques developed by Senior Edisha. Because she likes to use fists, this fighting technique is stronger than other techniques. If you are not careful, I might get hurt. Come on, since I am your aunt, I won't get really angry over this little thing. Who said that? Gia-11 wanted to complain. Jia Makiao had said similar words too many times before, but every time he complained to his brother Jia Rong, and unlucky children often fell into trouble with Gia-11. This time he seriously doubted that if he defeated his aunt with special moves, his aunt would dare to go straight to the Heaven Hall and complain to his grandfather Jia Yan. So before he uses special fighting skills, he will remind his aunt. There is no other way, just treat it as an adult and let the children go. What else could he do? When? This time, the fist severely blocked the tip of Makiao's sword, and caused the sword to bend. However, this bending was not enough to cause the sword to break. It only allowed Makiao to hit it with the impact of the fist. He had to fly backwards. Xiao 11, what is the principle of the technique you use? The principle is very simple. Use the scientific formation calculated by Senior Edisha to enhance the defense and strength of the fist, so that the attack power will be much stronger. It's easy to say, but it's too difficult to do. As expected of Senior Edisha, she can even think of such a technique. But your boxing technique is still useless to me. Just wait and see. Makiao shouted loudly, and a pair of green-white fingers whirled on the sword, and the entire sword exuded an astonishing momentum. Over the years, she has not undergone Jia Yan's array gene transformation. Unlike other Jia family members, her talent is strong enough. If the direction of her body's talent is not determined, Jia Yan will not act rashly. Otherwise, her natural talent will be wasted or even her original achievements will be wiped out. Therefore, her ability in the formation is not very strong, and because she has been living and practicing with the Black God Jia Yan for these years, the progress of the entire training has completely changed in the direction of the Black God Jia Yan. The particularity and independence between the clones lead to each clone having its own powerful direction and its own powerful way. Therefore, the daughter taught by the Black God Jia Yan naturally tends to his own. Why? It feels like the space is oscillating. Because I have subdimensional talent. Another characteristic of Jia Makiao is that she also has a certain degree of subdimensional talent, but she is not at all as good as Jia Yan, and her future achievements will be much worse. Therefore, when many people talk about her, they tend to forget this talent. But even if she forgets it, she can't hide the fact that although her own talents are not strong, they are all accompanied by the top subspace talent masters. Use it to fight ordinary people of the same level, it is easy and enjoyable. And there is another unique advantage, that is, the things that the Black God clone taught her only belong to the Black God clone. As the Black God who created the world, he has focused his development priorities on creating the world for many years. At the same time, he also focused on the unique way of existence of the created world, the way of integration with the universe, and the filling of many loopholes. The clone of the Black God has been doing it, so he has a unique understanding of space that only belongs to him. Jia Makiao was instilled with many spatial concepts. The swordsmanship at this moment was vividly displayed. It contains both the subspace power and the spatial understanding of the Black God Jia Yan. The two can be produced separately, and many people with similar talents can do it, but if they are combined and used in an integrated way, then unique. And the effect is completely earth-shaking. My fist. Jia 11 was frightened. He only felt that there was some kind of force pulling him on his fist, and the muscles and bones were twisting. If it weren't for the support of the formation on his arm, it might have broken long ago. The edge of the fist was falsely induced by the sword technique and deflected away. The next moment, Jia Makiao's sword edge spun back and killed him. Jia 11 was so scared that her back vest was suddenly filled with sweat. He barely resisted with his fists, but a bloody line was lightly drawn on his arm. If it were in a normal state, this competition would be over. After all, blood had already been seen, but on today's day, no one stopped. Jiarong on the sidelines just sighed but said nothing. He knew that his son Jiarong was probably the loser in searching for Shiyuan. He said he didn't care if his sister won over his son, but in the actual situation, how could he not care? Xiao 11 is also married. If he loses this battle, I'd better advise him to let him enter the job arranged by his father. Their family must have a formal job and contact, otherwise Xiao 11 will not have anything in the future. What should I do with a channel of my own? Jiarong is already planning his son's future path. To put it bluntly, Jia 11 was able to use the name of the most talented disciple of the Jia family to eat and drink for free on the pretext of cultivation, and also enjoyed the treatment of a core disciple. But today, he lost to the younger Jia Makiao. Although they are both direct descendants of Jia Yan, their treatment will definitely be worse. It would be better to enter the field that he is also interested in as soon as possible and take root in the trade area or the Orion arm, so that he can protect Jia 11's own descendants in the future. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3268. Otherwise, Jia 11's son is already Jia Yan's great-grandson, and the relationship will be even shallower. Judging from Jia Yan's past mentality, he may be taken care of even less. Sulfuric acid. Sure enough, after just a few moves, the miracle didn't happen. Jia 11 was defeated neatly by her younger aunt. Willing to lose. Too strong. You are willing to lose. Auntie, your strength may have reached the last step. Jia 11 couldn't feel any reluctance at all. After all, what he lost was entirely due to lack of strength. You're too weak, I haven't fully picked up the interest yet. As soon as these words came out, Jia 11 felt bad. Auntie, I'm complimenting you, is this how you respond to me? Haha, you two brats performed very well. You have a bright future. Jia Rong's voice came. Among today's Jia family members, Jia Rong's seniority has unknowingly become higher, and the younger generation are a little afraid of him when they see him. Dad, please stop laughing at me. Compared with my aunt, I am far behind. Don't say that, son, your aunt and you are not at the same level of talent. It's already good that you can persist until she is her age before losing. Jia 11 always feels that her father is blaming her. Dad, can you stop talking about it? My talent is probably no worse than yours. You know that, but I haven't seen you surpass your father and me. Wait, I will practice hard tomorrow. Don't say I practice too hard when I surpass you. Ha ha ha, if you are willing to practice, I will be happy before it is too late. How can I blame you? It is best to surpass your father and me as soon as possible, otherwise your words today will be laughed at by me for the rest of my life. Jia 11 took the first step angrily. Jia Rong turned around and looked at him, then looked at his sister Jia Makiao, sighing. I had expected such a day for a long time, but I didn't expect that this day would be so meaningful. Xiaoqiao, I will have to take care of you more in the future. With our dad's temperament and his busy schedule, the Jia family will eventually have to take care of you. It's under our control. I understand. Brother, I'm going to rest too. I feel like I gained something from today's fight. Okay, you go. Jia Rong knew that his sister Jia Makiao's relationship with him was not as good as that with his son Jia 11. After all, the age difference was too big. I'm afraid Jia Makiao regarded him as an elder. Watching his sister leave, Jia Rong looked around again. Dad, as you can see, I have to teach my sister well in the future. In terms of strength, I'm afraid I can't compare with her. Jia Yan did not reply. But Jia Rong knew how his father could miss today's fight. I'm afraid I can see every detail. He didn't expect his father to say anything about this kind of thing. These words were just a statement. For him, the affairs of the Jia family were completely taken over by him after Jia Yan went abroad. Even his aunts and cousins gradually left the front line. It was inevitable that he would take over most affairs. But his strength gradually failed to keep up with the times. In other words, his progress cannot keep up with the development and pace of the Jia family. If someone stronger than him appears to manage the Jia family and become the Jia family's second sea-fixing needle-like existence, he will also be happy to see it happen. Such an attitude was exactly what Xiang Shenlong's father had told him, that he would not care that his sister would surpass him in the future and would have more say than him. Only in this way can the father be reassured, Otherwise there are so many brothers in the world who would hate to see their younger siblings being stronger than themselves, and then a series of tragic things would happen. God knows what the father would think. Instead of making false accusations in the future and worsening the relationship between family members, it is better to make it clear now. I understand, Ranjir, you have grown up too. Just when Jiarong thought his father would not respond, he finally heard the voice from Jia Yan. Well, thank you father for the compliment. He nodded with the corners of his lips raised slightly. The communication between the two parties is limited to this. In the training room, Jia Yan felt his son's attitude and emotions, and in silence he realized some of the children of the Jia family living in the trade area. Here are the children of niece Jiaruo, and several children from the marriage partner's family who changed their surname to Chengxia. The Jia family treated all children equally, treating all children as their own, and expanded their personnel to breed and raise children in the city. After all, the environment here is much stronger than that on Earth. Looking around now, whether it is the playboys or the hard-working people, they are actually clinging to the big tree of the Jia family. It is understandable that Jiarong's performance will gradually enter the kind of high-level attitude of a big family that Jia Yan is familiar with. Because if you don't do that, it's impossible to manage such a big family. Oh, I didn't expect that it would end up like this. I have a carefree nature. There was a certain look of exhaustion between his giant eyebrows. Over the years, he hasn't made many moves. It seems that he is recharging his energy. But what Jia Yan didn't expect was that his energy had been being consumed, and now it was falling instead of rising. Perhaps this is the end of operating a power. No wonder, after so many powerful people have established their own power and industry, they stand still in improving their strength and end up wasting time. I have to take this as a warning. Jia Yan knows that his strength and talent are absolutely top-notch, but because of this, his ambitions and steps are very big. If there is a chance, he really wants to meet someone who has never set foot in the galaxy. Past areas. This may be the only thing strong people have in common. After becoming strong, I still want to be stronger. But now, he found that his steps were seriously hindered, so his mind became more active. If things in this world are over and my strength improves again, I will start a new round of travel. Whether it is in the other world, in the galaxy, or even in the wider universe, there will always be someone I can go to. Wherever I see, there is always a world that allows me to continue to move forward. I cannot let this place limit me to death. This is Jia Yan's temperament. You can call him cold-blooded, a visionary, or a cultivator. In short, he has his own vision and his own life plan. At least Jia Yan so far is not ready to stop. He is still young at the same level, can still rush, and still has the energy to rush. Similar force management incidents were, to put it bluntly, special operations he carried out in order to compete for hegemony in the world and increase his strength. The process is not the goal. His goal is always to improve his strength. The joining of his family and many dependents were also accidentally brought in to achieve his goal. After realizing his true nature, Jia Yan felt that the impatience in his heart had been reduced a lot. As long as you stick to your true intentions in whatever you do, you won't be afraid of going astray or losing yourself gradually. By the way, I have other things to do when I come to the outside world. Trade area. It's been too prosperous lately. It's like a long-term accumulation. In the past, the surrounding areas looked down on them and were hostile to them. Since the 6 masters from the central region of the galaxy joined the trade zone, and a large number of forces from the central region of the galaxy came to place orders, the trade zone has completely changed. Fire. On the ordinary streets, let alone the galaxy level, even the territory lord level can often be seen. Countless people began to regard the trade zone as a major force, and sincerely marveled at the prosperity of this place. Of course, if the trade zone's own strength is not strong enough, it is unknown whether these exclamations will turn into greed. This trade area is simply too exaggerated. It even sells many products from the central star region of our galaxy, and they are also the latest models. Hey, you don't understand this. Our 5 large forces in the central star region of the galaxy have formed an alliance with them. If there are any latest products in the central star region, they will choose to send some of them over as soon as possible and sell them to them at almost the cost price. There is no shortage of good products here. So, as long as they maintain a good relationship with us, they can continue to develop like this and become the overlord of this area. This is wrong. Oh? What's wrong? Even if we supply them with products, can't they become the overlord? Haha, you guys just don't have the eyesight. If you take a closer look, how can this trade area, especially the trade area under the leadership of the Geo family, not be regarded as a hegemon? Let me tell you, they are already considered as the overlord of this starry sky. Overlord, it's just that time accumulation is not enough. Secondly, you said we have to sell products to them all the time? That's right, that's right. This trade zone also has a power in the central star field of the Milky Way. It seems to be established by Mr. Jia Yan himself. The force is called, the Yin-Yang sect is similar. So, even without us, the Yin-Yang sect can still get the products by themselves. It's just that the methods are not as wild as ours, and they have a trade zone as a transit. In the future there will be a day when our own commercial roads will reach our scale. I understand, so even without us, they are still considered a dominant force now. Children can be taught. 2 young talents from the central star region of the Milky Way were sitting in a shop run by the forces behind them, chatting and spanking at the same time. You two, these words really make Geo feel ashamed. Suddenly, a voice suddenly sounded in their ears. Who? The 2 of them jumped up like frightened birds. You know, their strength has also reached the star level. Although they are not as good as those domain lord level masters and seniors who are actually sitting in the trade area, they can be regarded as rare masters in this area. But someone could actually sneak up on them and eavesdrop without them noticing? This was so loud that their dead souls were expelled. They looked up, but when they saw the face of the visitor, they all trembled. Giant mosquito. This is a terrifying mosquito that looks like a giant mosquito and is about 60 kilometers in size. In the Milky Way, creatures that are more than 60 kilometers in size can be said to be giants among giants. Moreover, on the body of this giant mosquito, there is always an aura that only belongs to the strong, which is intimidating. Of course. The most important thing is the appearance of the giant mosquito. It can be said that everyone in this trading area knows it. The real and substantial leader of the trade zone, Jia Yan. I've met Senior Jia. Meet the seniors. Both of them were sweating and saluted again and again. You know, they are just store owners from the Milky Way galaxy. Compared with Jia Yan, who runs the entire trade zone in front of him, they are like ordinary people meeting a top lord. In other words, the relationship is even more disparate than that. After all, the strength of both parties is also as different as heaven and earth. I'm here to meet the highest level of your power here. Please introduce him to me. Yes, let's go and ask Senior Ji to come over. Jia Yan entered the shop, and the shop was quickly closed, blocking the view of many outsiders who saw this unusual movement and peeked out. To be honest, I have been using Yeguo reading to catch up on books recently. I can switch sources and read aloud with many sounds. It can be used on both Android and Apple. Senior Ji has already informed you that he will be here soon. I wonder what your purpose is in coming here this time. The 2 galaxy level ones were still there, and they prepared a wealth of food that strong men liked for Jia Yan, and they stayed with him throughout the whole process, which was enough to give Jia Yan, a super strong man, face. I have some personal matters that I would like to ask the nobles. Jia Yan smiled warmly and respectfully. But the more such statements were made, the more the two of them were confused, and even felt anxious. You know, even galaxy-level people like them don't care about foreign affairs when they practice, let alone mundane affairs, because many things that are major events for ordinary life forms are just trivial to them. Little things. What's more, a big shot like Jia Yan has incredible strength and status. Since this person is willing to waste time in person and come to their station to ask about something, I'm afraid this matter won't be a trivial matter. But Jia Yan didn't want to explain, so they didn't dare to ask directly. Everything will come to light only when that Senior Ji comes. I've seen Senior Jia Yan, but I haven't seen him for many days, and he still has the same style. No need to be too polite. We are already familiar with each other at Chiyuan. I will keep the story short. I want to know how you communicated with Fairy Kun. Huh. Jia Yan's words immediately shook the other person's body. The strong man's tea that he just picked up splashed out a little. You know, this is tantamount to losing their composure. For strong men like them, being able to make such out-of-control actions shows that the inner panic has taken on some quite alarming level. This, Senior Jia Yan, I don't know who Fairy Kun you are talking about is. Brother Ji, Jia Yan, regard your force as a friend. When the adults from your force entered the inner world, I let them in without saying anything. I sincerely make friends with you, but if you still this kind of attitude is dishonest to Mr. Jia, so don't blame Mr. Jia. In the future, important people from your family may be left out of the world. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3269. That Mr. Ji is the real person in charge of the shops in the trade zone, or more than just the shops, he is the diplomatic envoy stationed in the trade zone. He manages not only the shops, but also the trade routes that come to the trade zone to do business, and many of the biggest talkers in the diplomatic relations between the two sides. At this moment, what Jia Yan said made his whole body more than just sweating. The person Jia Yan was talking about was obviously the adult whose influence entered the other world. The lower level of the domain lord. Moreover, he is the strongest among their forces and the leader of the forces. He has an absolute position as the number one person in the force, and no one will move him, because without him, the entire force will fall apart right before his eyes. But if Jia Yan is unwilling to take that person out of the other world because of his own problems, doesn't it mean that he will be the person responsible for the disintegration of the forces behind him? To be honest, I have been using Yeguo reading to catch up on books recently. I can switch sources and read aloud with many sounds. It can be used on both Android and Apple. He didn't dare to carry this big pot. Senior Jia Yan, to tell you the truth, I have never met the so-called MRS Kun in person. Finally, under heavy pressure and cooperation, the domain lord level Master Ji bowed his head to reality. Oh? Do you still call her MRS Kun? Has she returned to that domain lord level master? Yes, concubine Kun is still that concubine, but it is said that the relationship between the two has reached a freezing point, and there is a possibility of breaking up at any time. And our trade area, as well as your news and intelligence, are exactly what Leila Kun is, madams. It is indeed concubine Kun. Jia Yan looked solemn. Several times, I can't remember how many times. It is indeed unacceptable to pursue someone backwards to this extent. If Jia Yan had some manly pride in him before, now he is filled with anger. By now, the female had gone a little too far. Looking at the many problems that Jia Yan encountered before, concubine Kun played a lot of roles in them, and she couldn't be said to be good. If she is doing it for my own good, it is difficult to explain that these things will always make me very distressed, and I have encountered a lot of dangers, so I have reason to think that she is not absolutely trying to help me. As for the masters of these 5 forces being attracted by her is even more confusing, she is simply harboring evil intentions. Your Excellency, I wonder where concubine Kun is now. Senior Jia Yan, what do you want to do with concubine Kun? I'm doing things for myself, so you don't need to ask, right? If you don't want to tell me, I can ask other people. I think other forces should be aware of this small matter. Ah, I know all the questions asked by seniors, and I can't explain them all. Concubine Kun is still in the Central Star territory, but where exactly she is, I don't know. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. Jia Yan finally took this person away. After a few words of greetings, he announced his departure first without waiting for the return of the man in charge. To the other party, this was Fei's statement that Jia Yan would not continue to pursue this matter. While they sighed, they could not help but feel a little frightened. After all, the so-called concubine Kun was not an easy person to deal with. Concubine Kun was being troubled by Jia Yan. It would be fine if the outcome was decided between the two parties, but if there was no outcome, their life would be difficult. After all, it was quite difficult to survive in the cracks. Of course, just talking about this matter, their forces are also top-notch large forces, so there is nothing to be afraid of against the two of them. Jia Yan left this prosperous place with a gloomy expression. Before leaving, he went to see the children of the Jia family who were closely related to him, which excited a group of children as if they had taken drugs, and they were all extremely excited. Breaking into this space, a huge palace is waiting for a long time inside. Brother Master, you are back. Do you miss Disha? Of course I do, but your status makes it difficult for me to enter the other world. Next time I have a chance, I will definitely let you go to the other world to see the world. Okay, I must go and see it. Jia Yan smiled and communicated with Aidisha, then looked at Xiao Yuer who was waiting for him to call her name. In theory, she is an older child than her daughter Jia Makiao, but judging from her performance, she is still as childlike as ever, very young. After all, the two parties can't just compare their ages like this. Jia Makiao is a child born from the union of two races from the Orion arm, while Xiao Yuer is a life form from the Northern Star. Not only are the two sides different in living conditions and living areas, but even in terms of race, they are also different in nature. Different types. The black hole area where Xiao is located has a high per capita strength, and the growth period of children is extremely long and far away. There are many races that generally do not reach adulthood until they are hundreds of years old. Even if Xiao Yuer does not belong to that race, her race requires 100 years of age to be considered an adult, and she is still very young now. Master, Xiao has made progress in the formations he has recently learned. Edisha has taught me a lot. Xiao Yuer has long wanted to show off. Oh, let me, my master, see how your yin-yang dao and formation dao are progressing. Okay. The little pink fish flipped over and over in the air, performing various yin and yang techniques and formation techniques in a stylish manner. Oh, you little guy, your progress is faster than my teacher imagined. Tell me, what reward do you want my teacher to give you for such fast progress? I want the chance to travel alone. Huh? Do you want to travel alone? Yes, master, you went traveling and taking risks when you were very young, didn't you? I heard that Jia 11 also traveled when she was very young, and Jia Rong was the same way. Don't you want me to try it too? Do you see it? They are different from you, you are still a child. No, 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 I'm older than Jia 11, I'm not a child. What Xiao Yuer said made Jia Yan feel confused. Xiao Yuer has always looked like a child in his mind, and there has been no change so far. But if you look carefully, isn't she a little older than Jia 11? But Jia 11 is already married and starting a business, while Xiao Yuer is still a little kid. Even Adisha, who was a little brat with her, started to look like a little adult. I remember that it is difficult for your race to grow up without experiencing wind, frost, snow, and rain, so your race has a tradition of migration and travel, so I will not restrict you from traveling, but you must pay attention to protect yourself. Jia Yan was silent for a moment, and finally did not hinder this disciple's wish. If even Jia 11 can come and go freely in the galaxy, why can't this own disciple not be able to do so? Her strength is stronger than Jia 11. Great, Adisha, did you hear me? I'm going on a trip. The girl beside him, Adisha, said with a smile, I listened, and I'm very happy too, because I want to go with you, otherwise the master brother will not be relieved. Huh? I don't want, ugh. Xiao Yuer wanted to resist, but when she came to her senses, she realized that traveling with Edissa had been her true wish for decades. Without this little friend, perhaps the fun on the journey would be much less. Well, Edissa, you can accompany her on the journey. If there are any dangers or difficulties along the way, you can ask for help from here. Any master in the trade area can be driven by you. Jia Yan let go again. Great. The two sisters-in-law were very excited. As for you two, father and son. Jia Yan looked at Jia Rong and Jia 11 who were sitting not far away. During these days, you should practice hard and don't leave the trade area. You may not be able to feel it recently, but I feel that a storm is approaching. Okay, Dad. Jia Rong responded quickly. Jia 11 didn't dare to refute anything and nodded. Seeing this, Jia Yan still missed the son who dared to do anything against him decades ago. After all, the state of the two fathers and sons had set the tone from the beginning. Now that decades have passed, the son has suddenly made a 180-degree turn, which is really hard for him to adapt. And Xiao Qiao'er, let her cultivate herself well in the next days. It's best to fall in love. The truth of life is very long. She has been stuck in the world of books, but she is even more old than me. It's time for her to see the world. I will urge her on this. Jia Maqiao didn't want to come to this party because he had books to read. Jia Yan was therefore very worried about this daughter who was perfect in everything. Fortunately, with the help of her son and grandson, and the influence of the more prosperous civilization on this side of the galaxy, it shouldn't be a problem for Jia Maqiao to return to the fashion expected of her age. Jia Yan can't control that much. After all, the children's choices are still up to them. Xiao 11, I forgot to tell you in person, happy wedding. Now that you are married, it means that you have grown up and will focus on your family from now on. Don't imitate your grandfather and me. If you want to imitate your father. He is recognized as a good man. Jia Rong couldn't help but say, whoever cares so little about family and sets up a negative image for me may not be able to become a so-called good man. Jia Yan pretended not to hear what he said. After a few more pleasantries, he also named Leda and the garrison disciples of the Yin-Yang sect who were not attending the meeting. In short, Jia Yan's arrangements were quite careful. Dad, are you in any danger? Probably not. I want to find some correct answers this time. As a human being, you can't keep everything hidden in your bones. You have to be careful. Got it? On such an ordinary night, many new and old residents in the trade area, as well as many experts, were still excited to welcome the uncrowned king Jia Yan. The uncrowned king that everyone calls him has already taken advantage of the darkness of night to stay away from the starry sky and quickly heads towards the central star field of the Milky Way from subspace. The lightning speed is no longer enough to describe Jia Yan, who now has stronger subdimensional power. His subspace ability has been further improved and gained new insights after decades of diligent and non-missing subspace train transportation. Simply used for long-distance navigation in subspace, the number is already several times that of the original. The round-trip distance that used to take a few keystrokes now only takes a month at most. This is not the way to travel that I have risked my life for. Things like speed can be continuously superimposed. It might take Jia Yan several days to walk 1 light year. It would also take several days to walk dozens of light years. It would also take 10 days to walk hundreds of light years. And so on. If he really walks, in the end, it only took about a month to complete the journey from the tens of thousands of light years trade zone to the central star field of the Milky Way. Because the speed is always superimposed, it is like the speed right in Star Wars. The principle is the same. The speed may not be that fast at first, but it will improve more and more. The stronger you are, the more stamina you will have. Like Jia Yan, he was sailing in the subspace, and his speed was several times or even 10 times different than that of ordinary masters. Then he improved more strength today, and gained more and more insights into subspace, so his speed naturally became faster. 1 month. It was a dusty journey and he was rushing without any distractions. It took Jia Yan less than a month to feel the extremely rich smell of energy from the outside world within the 10-dimensional space. Jia Yan had only smelled this kind of place in the central star territory. Calculating that the time is almost the same, it seems that this long-distance voyage is making good progress. In 1 month, he traveled from a place of tens of thousands of kilometers at super light speed, which would probably shock even many experts in the central star field. Jia Yan's speed is too fast. Then, should I go out directly, or go into the target place? Forget it, going alone is something only a fool would do. I might as well go out and take a good look at the situation. If the situation is suitable, it won't be too late to confront Concubine Kun directly. Jia Yan is no longer the young boy who only knew how to be tough in the front. Today, he is more mature and likes to use his brain more. To put it nicely, he knows how to deal with others. To put it harshly, it means that he has become timid. It depends on the angle and point of view from which he is viewed today. Welcome, Senior, are you here to buy or sell? Jia Yan drilled out of subspace and quickly found a commercial planet that mainly focused on acquisition and sales. Let me take a look first. There is no need to arrange for manpower to come and monitor us. I disdain your little planet. The junior domain lord level junior behind you is no match for me. /U003C/P/U003E. Ah, yes. We know, seniors, please feel free to do whatever you want. The senior officials who came to greet Jia Yan had pale faces and quickly let Jia Yan enter the planet without daring to say anything. Generally, people who dare to speak nonsense are either incompetent or have real talents and learning. Unfortunately, Jia Yan's head and manner of speaking don't seem like some incompetent being. What's more, it was directly pointed out that there is a domain lord level behind this planet. If this place hadn't been on the edge of the galaxy's central star field, otherwise Jia Yan would have just appeared, and the person who greeted him would have been the average supervisor, but the domain lord level master. In the core area of the Milky Way central star field, it is possible that there are domain lord level masters on each of those planets. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3270. Jia Yan walks on this planet called Delhi. The planet is built in a style that is large enough to accommodate large creatures for tourism and shopping. But no matter what, this place is not as good as the other world. Especially for someone as small as Jia Yan, almost wherever he goes, he can only watch from a distance but not play up close. After walking around for a while, he actually walked around the planet in half an hour, and Jia Yan felt a little tired. After getting used to the style of the other world, and then coming to the galaxy where the biodiversity is very different from that of the other world, the difference between the two quickly makes people feel confused. That's it, let's stop teasing the managers here. I feel like they will cry if we don't leave. Jia Yan left this planet, saying he was shopping, but actually he didn't buy anything. The purpose is very simple, just to announce to some parties that Jia Yan is back again. The battle in the other world is still going on. I can't waste too much time in the galaxy. The first thing I can do this time is to lure the snake out of the hole. If this method doesn't work, I will consider the possibility of visiting directly. There is still fighting in the other world, especially since the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has ended in person. Jia Yan's original intention is not to start the war lightly in the Galaxy base camp. But when things got to this point, and many connections were connected, it was discovered that almost all the encounters in the past century or so were caused by the female, and it was impossible for Jia Yan to sit still. Although I have thought through a lot, there are still many mysteries that have not yet been solved. The news of Jia Yan's return to the Central Star Territory was no longer as quiet as his first visit, nor was it calm. As a top master of the lower level of Domain Lord, his reputation has already been huge. Don't think that he has not done many earth-shattering things in the central star field of the Milky Way, so he will remain anonymous. In fact, in the central star field of the Milky Way, no matter which master is above the senior Domain Lord level, he will be recorded in the eucalyptus by the major snobbery. Even the senior Domain Lord will be treated warmly by almost all forces as long as he is recognized. What's more, he is a master of the lower level of the Territory Lord. Existences of this level are almost the strongest people that can be seen on a daily basis. Which force dares not care? Has the top expert from the Orion Arm returned to the Central Star Territory? Didn't it mean that he had disappeared for decades, so why did he suddenly appear again? After Jia Yan visited 2 more commercial stars, his actions finally attracted the attention of truly large forces. The strongest of these so-called large forces is just a senior Domain Lord. Of course, the entire world is connected, and maybe behind their backs they are paying tribute to a force that has a high-ranking Domain Lord. I've met Senior Jia Yan, but I'm a little disappointed. Please forgive me. Jia Yandan looked at the master, making him feel numb before looking back. Ignorance is not guilty. Just take me around the commercial area where you are waiting. As commanded. The masters in the Central Star Territory are all very discerning, especially the masters who have reached this stage. Those who are not good at observing faces have long since died in the friction between the forces in the Central Star Territory. This time, the other party led Jia Yan into a place that was large enough to accommodate super-large creatures to enter and consume, and it was not on a planet, but in an endless black screen of stars. Senior, many of the elite products of this force have samples here. If Senior is interested, I can decide and offer the lowest cost price. You're interested, by the way, do your forces often come into contact with the masters of the lower level of the Domain Lord? No, since the establishment of this force, we have been building facilities with the goal of accepting great masters like our seniors, but we have never received even one great master like our seniors. Therefore, we can win the favor of our seniors today. It is our third life fortunately. I see. Jia Yan looked at the endless flow of people in the facility, and then saw that there were a lot of words on the signboard that read XXX that is also loved by the masters of the lower level of domain masters, and he suddenly understood. Isn't this just some kind of propaganda excuse? But if I go there today, I'm afraid the other party will have a real reason to publicize it. After all, this time I really received a powerful person from the lower level of the Territory Lord. Regarding the positioning of strength among the Domain Lord levels, the Central Star region has done much better than other places. For example, in the trade area, or in the Orion Arm region, many high-level forces confuse senior Domain Lords with junior Domain Lords. To put it bluntly, they don't know the difference between senior Domain Lords and junior Domain Lords. Therefore, in the outside world, the treatment enjoyed by the powerful Domain Lords at the lower level is not much higher than that of senior Domain Lords. But it's different in the Central Star field. The definition of top masters here is clear. Just like Jia Yan knows very well that there is still a huge gap between himself and the real lower level power. The senior domain lords here also know very well that there is a huge gap between them and junior domain lords like Jia Yan. It may take a lifetime to catch up. Hey, you really have some good stuff here. Jia Yan shopped around and found some valuable items. When he placed the order in person, he was so excited that the store owners who came to receive him quickly bargained with themselves, and there was almost no rip-off behavior. Not to mention that the boss of this powerful company is accompanying Jia Yan, but that after selling Jia Yan's products, they will be able to speculate on these products in the future, and the returns they receive will be much greater than selling Jia Yan's products at a low price. People who can become bosses have foresight and will not engage in self-defeating behavior. So after the transaction, Jia Yan actually felt a little unsatisfied. Are these all good goods? Yes, Senior. If Senior needs it, we can mobilize and purchase it again, but the price is. Jia Yan understands that if they want products in large quantities, they will not make any profit at all, so they are not willing to do so. Don't worry, as long as your product is excellent, I can get the goods at a 10% increase in price. If you are willing to undertake the freight business of transporting to our trade area, I can also get the goods at a 10% increase in price. It depends on whether you are willing. Agreed. What he is buying now is a batch of high-tech products that are urgently needed in the world. Perhaps it is nothing to put in the central star field. It is really difficult to achieve the technical level and capabilities of the trade zone, so Jia Yan just happened to put this matter. It's done. But it depends on whether the other party is willing. It seems that he has increased the price by another 20%, but when it comes to transporting it to the trade area, even looking at the star map is a bit confusing. This is already an ultra-long-distance interstellar transportation business. It's not a matter of whether they have the ability. The key is that they only increased the price by 10% after going so far. To them, it's the same as suffering a loss. Senior, this kind of price is impossible. To be honest, you are so far away. No one is willing to give us a profit of more than 50%. If you come to get the goods yourself, I can make the decision to sell these goods. I'll give you the 10% plus price above, but if you want us to help with transportation, the price will have to increase by at least 50%. Otherwise, it's impossible for anyone to cooperate with you, or you can ask other companies. Haha, boss, you are really talking about business. You don't need to look at others. Just use yours. However, the quality of the goods must be at least this level. If you dare to pass off inferior goods, you know the consequences. That's nature, that's nature. After negotiating a relatively profitable deal, the other party was very happy. What was even more happy was that he was involved with a real master who stood at the top of the galaxy. Don't underestimate this opportunity. If he grasps it well, his business privileges in the central star field of the Milky Way may be greatly improved. Of course, this is all in the future. What he has to do now is to do business honestly with Jia Yan's subordinate forces. Some people took advantage of the top masters, while others did not take advantage of this opportunity. Everything depends on whether they can seize the opportunity. However, among this group of people, the only one who lost his mind was the senior domain master who came to receive Jia Yan in person. Your power is very good. All your business specifications and style are not inferior to those of the prosperous places in the Central Star Territory. I believe that if you can develop well, you will definitely be able to carry forward your career. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. I will definitely maintain my style. Jia Yan's suggestion naturally has other meanings in it. For example, he is hinting that he will have trade frictions with those merchants in the future. He hopes that the Lord can enforce the law impartially and keep everything in the current style. Of course, if the current style is to be the main one, the terms signed now are the only proof, and this proof, as a treaty signed by a top expert in person, is naturally a big advantage. Jia Yan is afraid that in the future he will become an ordinary worker in the trade zone and come to deal with merchants. Their instinct as a businessman will make them open their mouths. Then don't worry. By the way, it is said that you have a close relationship with several of your same-ranking friends in the central region. The complexion of the senior domain master changed slightly. Coming. He was not a fool, and he would not easily believe that a master who stood at almost the top of the galaxy would condescend to come shopping in person just because of a trivial small business matter. That's not how masters play. Otherwise, the business center for top experts he built would not have been patronized by the domain masters for the first time after so many years. Senior, I wonder which person of the same level in the Central Star region do you want to communicate with? I am not very talented at the lower level. I can indeed contact a few other seniors, but the relationship is much shallower. This guy speaks with impeccable accuracy. Jia Yan calmed down and said calmly, "You don't have to hide anything from me. I don't want to publicize the dialogue and transactions between you and me too much, but after all, we have reached a non-relationship. Think about it carefully. Think about what those friends will think of it. If you offend yourself, I'm fine with it, but do you think you won't suffer backlash in the future?" The senior domain master's face finally turned pale. He forgot why, before he came into contact with Jia Yan, when he reported to the vanguard forces, their attitude was so weird. No one said anything, but looking back on the attitude now, it was definitely weird. For a moment, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. No large power would accept being a vassal under its subordinates. Even when he reported in advance, he explained that he was conducting intelligence investigation on behalf of Shang Feng. If things go well, you won't get too many awards. But if things don't go well, you, the person who initiated the matter, might be accused of being selfish, or even be labeled as a two-faced person. Maybe a spy. There's no need to be anxious. I just mentioned it casually. If you panic yourself, wouldn't you be convicting them of their crime? Sir, I now know what it means to regret one mistake for eternity, but now it's too late to regret it. Please teach me, senior. With a bitter face, the other party begged Jia Yan for his guidance. To put it bluntly, this person is just a force that has become a subordinate of certain forces. I am afraid that when there is a real life and death crisis, those forces may not necessarily come to help. But if he is allowed to take the blame, those forces who are leading the charge will definitely not be lenient. He finally figured out that Jia Yan came here today just to plot against him. Many of the small actions and the praises given to him in the crowd were a bit fake. They were for the spies of the big forces in the dark. Maybe now the talk of him surrendering to the enemy has become very popular. Sure enough, he is like a younger brother when he plays tricks with top players. Don't worry, I don't want to do anything to you. I just want to ask for some information. If it's convenient for you, just say it. If it's not convenient, you don't need to say it. No matter what the result is, I and the forces under me will do everything within our power. We will support you under certain conditions. Under Jia Yan's words and attacks, the other party announced their surrender not long after. He revealed a lot of information he had about the top masters in the central star field of the Milky Way. Not long after, a giant mosquito figure flew out of this land of commercial power. Only the senior domain master, who was still in a confused state, was left behind. It wasn't until a close subordinate noticed something was wrong with his expression, and went to Shiyuan to wake him up with some anxiety, that the senior domain lord suddenly reacted as if he had just woken up from a dream. Is this the power of a top master? Oh my God, what did I say just now? Why did I recognize his words in just a few words? You know, I am not an ordinary senior domain lord, the gap between the lower level of ordinary domain lords shouldn't be that big. How strong should this person be? He became annoyed and frightened. Just now he seemed to be deceived by Jia Yan's few words, but in fact he was under the influence of Jia Yan's certain brainwave aura, just like being hypnotized. Otherwise, how could a senior domain master believe in Jia Yan so easily? Yan, this strange master's art of sowing dissension? Although falling into the trap makes people angry, this person's strength is real. Can I do some manipulation and make it look real? By the way, the best app for reading and listening to books is Yeguo Reading. Install the latest version. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3271. This senior domain lord is running a business force, which means that even if he is not a businessman, he definitely has a businessman's mind and will not be hostile to Jia Yan just because of a mere trick. After all, Jia Yan did not take the opportunity to attack, which shows that there is not much malicious intent. Therefore, the idea of falling neatly to this master with unfathomable strength has arisen. Of course, the ownership of a senior domain lord cannot be decided simply by one's will. He has to wait and see more, otherwise he will not be able to make a decision. The main direction of this wait and see is the results of the battle between Jia Yan and the top players he reported. It's impossible for Jia Yan to come here for no reason, to bewitch one of his senior domain masters and ask for information, just for fun. There must be some feud to do this. Then let's watch the show first. If Jia Yan wins, he will fall into Jia Yan's arms just because of the transaction. As for losing, that's easier, just keep it as is. So he doesn't need to be so nervous about this matter at all, just wait and see the result. In fact, Jia Yan never thought of harming him. There is no hostile relationship between the two parties, so why bother? His only need is to get some character information from the other party. According to the account given by the director of the trading area, the existences that Concubine Kun has been in contact with recently are among these characters. Jia Yan carefully discussed the relationships between the characters. For him, the relationship between the characters that he wanted to figure out was actually not complicated, it was just a little difficult to obtain definite evidence. At the same time, in the depths of the vast sea of stars in the universe, there are endless unsolved mysteries, and there are endless beautiful stories happening. For the strong, they have and only their worldview of law. And for them, the world they see is obviously that their thinking is framed in the world of becoming stronger and killing. But from an angle beyond their normal sight, the world has countless ways of life that far exceed their imagination. For example, in the central star field of the Milky Way, there are far more than a group of people who never think about cultivation, but only think about how to study the true meaning of the universe. It's not that there are no research results on such characters, but because of their uniqueness, the entire group of people is squeezed out by the general public based on the system of the strong. As expected, Jia Yan came to the central star territory. Let's discuss what to do next and come up with a charter. Kukyaku, Jia Yan is very powerful. If we have the chance, of course we must obtain his body and study the technical secrets of the strong men of the past era, but this matter is difficult to do. Rather, it should be think about how to prevent him from following the clues, and finding out what we are doing is the right way. Do you think we should eradicate Mrs. Khan to avoid future troubles? Destroying that woman is not as easy as dealing with Jia Yan. It's not like you don't know her true identity. If we fight to the death, we may not know who will win. This won't work, that won't work either, what are you going to do? The matter is very simple. It's just a matter of whether we intervene or not. In fact, we can completely step aside for the time being and sit back and watch what happens. This is the only plan for now. I hope things will not enter the most dangerous situation. This is a group of people who look like they are not easy to get along with. Their attire and appearance are neurotic. But even if we want to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight, we have to let the two ferocious tigers enter the ring. Can any of you find a reason to pass on a piece of information to the other side? Okay, let me do it. The central star field of the Milky Way is the essence of the Milky Way that countless lives hope for and admire. And within this so-called elite place, there are still cores within the core, such as the black hole area, and the vast area close to the black hole area. Although the area close to the black hole area cannot be compared with the black hole area, it is still an extremely noble place. Countless large-scale forces have settled here, and powerful people gather here. Territory lords are everywhere, and even the late-level territory lords who usually disappear in the outside world occasionally show up. There are several forces that are sure to have lower-ranked domain lords sitting in their ranks. As the black hole area belongs to the legendary level, this area is the strongest area in the Milky Way galaxy on the bright side, and it is also a holy land for countless low-level cultivators in the galaxy. Among these countless forces, there are several very large forces, one of which is known as an old established force that is extremely mysterious and has unfathomable strength. They are a force that sits very close to the black hole area. They know the secrets of the black hole area very well. They can even be said to be the gatekeepers guarding the gate of the black hole area. It is rumored that the influence of internal forces in the black hole area is not small. They are the Nidai clan. On the surface, his strength is not that strong, but he attends large-scale meetings in the central star region of the Milky Way every time, and his seats are always very high. His status is only weaker than those of the superpowers who preside over the meetings. Jia Yan still thinks that he entered the other world through his own efforts. He thinks too much. Don't publicize this matter for the time being. He is still quite useful to us. If we arouse his vigilance, it may make all our efforts go to waste. Among the colorful butterfly clan, 3 butterfly creatures exuding colorful colors were chatting. The core of the discussion is clearly Jia Yan. But is it a little too radical to make a deal with those recognized weirdos? You know, other families are very wary of them. If we cause any trouble because of this, maybe they will be dissatisfied. What trouble can there be? Besides, what can those families say about us? Can't we just hand over our status like this? It's a beautiful idea. By the way, it is said that Jia Yan has left the other world again in the past few days and entered our central star field. Do you want to send someone to pay attention to his movements anytime and anywhere? This boy's strength is no longer what it used to be. Let's forget it. If he notices anything, it may affect our future plans. To be honest, I have been using Yeguo reading to catch up on books recently. I can switch sources and read aloud with many sounds. It can be used on both Android and Apple. Then let's give up, huh? Those guys contacted me? Maybe there are some changes, please wait a moment. A colorful butterfly creature picked up the communication signal. After a moment, he disconnected the communication with a sinister look on his face. Everyone, Jia Yan has indeed discovered our behavior and is now rushing in our direction. You all can express your opinions. What should we do? As expected, I have already said that this guy is obviously not stupid. How can we keep playing with him? Why don't you tell him the truth? It's not a bad thing for him anyway. It might even be an opportunity. Hey, when you say this, you don't take Jia Yan's matter seriously. As long as you pay more attention to this guy, you should know that his character is not someone who can tolerate being deceived. Maybe we can tell after this incident, a future competitor will be cultivated, and you don't want to see premature consequences, right? Yes, and those weirdos are very interested in the secret of Jia Yan's ability to improve his strength so quickly. More than once, we have expressed our desire to get his body for research. If I violate the agreement and have sex with Jia Yanzong, there is no need to be afraid. They always caused a bunch of trouble, and the gains outweighed the losses. So what you are saying is that dealing with Jia Yan is the best option. I agree. I wonder if you are prepared. It's not about dealing with it. The hard work you put in before can't be simply given up, so this time it's about expulsion, not giving up. The act of traveling through the central star field is a huge risk for ordinary life forms. Even for experts above the star level, it is by no means that easy. It is always a matter of fact that the area of the central star territory is not as small as imagined. Another reason is that the forces within the entire central star territory are complicated. If one accidentally reaches a certain death spot, his life will be over. But that's for ordinary experts. For the truly top experts, the central star field is only as dangerous as that. Jia Yan, who was once just an ordinary domain lord, passed through the central star domain to the black hole area. Not to mention that he has now reached the level of a legendary existence in the central star field. Movement within the subspace would be difficult for ordinary forces to detect as long as he didn't want to. It's a pity. In order to hide our whereabouts, we have to avoid the yin-yang sect area. Otherwise, we can go and see how those little guys are doing. Jia Yan naturally still remembers that he still has a group of disciples in the central star territory. However, this matter is not urgent. After all, there are always disciples of the yin-yang sect in the trade area. From their mouths, Jia Yan knows the current situation of the yin-yang sect very well. Jia Yan smiled lightly as he recalled the time when he recruited disciples in the peaceful area. Things like people often recall the bitter and sweet life because of certain memories. Jia Yan is no exception. He always felt that his character was heading towards better and better days, but the really good times were the times when he was fighting in the universe. Perhaps what psychology says is correct is that human nature only remembers beatings but not eating. The days when you are tortured by life can be remembered for a long time, but the truly happy times are completely forgotten. What nonsense are you thinking about? My age is extremely young for my level. If this is the case now, won't I be dead after a few thousand years? Jia Yan shook his head with a wry smile. He has always had the illusion that he is not a mosquito, but a human being with the appearance of a mosquito. Of course, from a practical point of view, it seems that this is correct. But he had made up his mind more than once to get rid of his past identity, only to regard himself as a real giant mosquito, and to live coldly as a mosquito. However, the reality is in front of him. He failed to freeze his heart. As his strength increased, he became more and more obsessed with the past. It's time for me to give up a lot of unnecessary emotions. This is why I always reject the younger members of the family recently. Maybe from their point of view, I am a bit too cold and ruthless, but what they don't know is that this is what makes me strong. The path I should take is even more serious than mine. It's not about completely sealing off your heart, it's more about understanding the choices better. Choosing family affection and love, I also understand more about human nature that I didn't understand so well before. Let's take a look at the so-called concubine Kun who likes me. She used the reason of my youth and inexperience to get close to me in an unwarranted way. When I found out, she used emotional excuses to escape, and then she did it again. I exposed her poor acting skills every time, but she was not punished by me again and again. In addition to the fact that I was always deceived because I was too young, the bigger reason is that she has mastered human nature, which prevents me from touching her easily. /U003C/P/U003E. Speaking of which, concubine Kun did not do anything particularly bad. It was just guiding Jia Yan to carry out some radical actions that would have been impossible, such as fighting the white dolphin. It was impossible for him to take the initiative to fight a life and death battle with the white dolphin. The second is to deliberately stimulate enemies to come and cause trouble for Jia Yan in a place where he cannot see them. Moreover, these enemies are often the kind of existence that Jia Yan can deal with. Because of this, after Jia Yan revealed that she was the one causing trouble behind her back, often they don't go to concubine Kun to ask clearly at the first time. But things are different now. The war in the other world is in full swing. If he continues to let concubine Kun do little things for him, he will be putting his life in the hands of others. It was impossible for Jia Yan to do such a demanding thing, so he rushed to the Central Star territory first to resolve the matter. But he didn't expect that there was more than just her own family standing behind concubine Kun. Because of the huge energy possessed by the other party, his general whereabouts were always in the hands of the other party after he left the trade area. Of course, with Jia Yan's ability in subspace, there is still a chance to deceive others. For example, his sudden advance is probably beyond many people's expectations. After all, the masters of the late domain masters who are talented in the subspace can still be tracked by others in the endless family actions in the subspace. It is not necessary to use the name of Jia Yan, a top subspace master. Time flies. As Jia Yan's whereabouts disappeared for 3 days in the edge of the Milky Way's central star field, many rumors began to spread. Some people say that this mysterious visitor from outside the Central Star Territory must have known about the prosperity of the Central Star Territory and chose to go back. Some people say that he has low self-esteem. Some people also say that this foreign master may have been killed somewhere by the masters of the same level in the Central Star region because he was too high profile. What is even more exaggerated is that Jia Yan has already made enemies in the central star field of the Milky Way, and is now lurking, preparing to strike a thunderous blow at the critical moment against his enemies. Many people sneered at the above rumors. It is rare to see the existence of a great master of the lower level of the territory lord. I am afraid that there are not many opportunities for them to meet each other, so how can they talk about enmity? Moreover, the battles between masters are always stinky and long-lasting. The most common way is to solve the problem through messengers. Jia Yan's approach is not consistent with common sense at all. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3272. Alright. These people believe that the most unlikely possibility is the most accurate. Jia Yan had been disturbed by concubine Kun, and he did not dare to let go of the recent war in the other world, so he came in person to settle it once and for all. The silent dark universe, endless possibilities, endless miracles. Although the black hole area is good, there are many mysterious and energetic places nearby. There are patches of light and energy overflowing infinitely here. To the universe, the power of the strong is nothing. The energy emanating from a random white hole or black hole is countless times stronger than the power of top masters. This area is obviously a point of energy emanating from a white hole. This energy point has already been managed by a large number of forces and experts. No one can miss such an important source of power. Moreover, the power ejected by the white hole is extremely stable, much stronger than the energy that pulses from time to time by the black hole. There are not many white holes in the entire galaxy. Because they are relatively stable, once a jet is formed, it will be seized by the surrounding large forces almost instantly, and then they can be operated into a huge source of income that can last forever. Compared with the lifespan of a white hole, these forces can last for a moment, so it is correct to say that the power of a white hole is infinite. But in this place where every inch of land is precious, there is a force that occupies a large area of territory, and even uses a piece of land as a tourist facility. Normally, not many people from the force visit it, but no other force makes any slight remarks. Because this family is one of the super big families, the Nai family. In this family, there are countless strong men, and there are even more talented children. Their strength and future potential are jaw-dropping and terrifying. No one would compete with them for such a tiny bit of territorial gain. In this energy-filled area, a graceful figure of colorful light was dancing in it. Like a dragonfly touching the water, or like a butterfly painted in a dream, its slender feet tap lightly, creating ripples. It seemed real and illusory. When I woke up from the dream, I felt as if I had had a great spring and autumn dream, and the person in the dream was right in front of me. Macon is truly worthy of being the person who has cultivated my clan's traditional butterfly dance to an extremely advanced level. It is really an eye-opener for us. Brother clan deserves such praise. Ha ha ha, you don't have to be so humble. There are no outsiders today, so just dance well and sit here and enjoy it as my brother. Behind the colorful butterfly is another colorful butterfly figure. Taken out individually, it is absolutely stunning in appearance. But placed next to the colorful butterfly, it is like a grain of rice competing with the bright moon, losing its color in an instant. Brothers and sisters, please report an emergency. What's the emergency? And you don't hesitate to interrupt our brother and sister's clan dance trial. The latter male colorful butterfly felt a little uncomfortable. The colorful female butterfly smiled and said, "Brother, there is no need to be so angry. Why don't you first listen to the information reported by this brother? Otherwise, you and I will not be responsible for any important content that is missed." "Okay, this clan brother, please tell me what kind of information is it that makes you so bold as to come and disturb my enjoyment with my clan sister?" "Yes, clan brother and clan sister, this message is about the Orion arm Jia Yan. Clan sister once told me that if Jia Yan takes any action, no matter what clan sister is doing at the time, she must come as soon as possible. Report, something strange happened to Jia Yan at this time." "What? What happened to Jia Yan?" Clan girl butterfly's complexion suddenly changed color. The clan brother asked curiously, "What's wrong with the clan sister? Could it be that Jia Yan is an important person and you were so shocked when you heard his name?" "Brother, I don't know that Jia Yan is a powerful master of the lower level of territory lord, and he is a person with excellent strength and talent. He and I have known each other nearly 100 years ago, and we met by chance. I even had a lot of misunderstandings with him. This time he behaves strangely. If he comes to me, I'm afraid the person who comes is not good." "What? Is this happening? Clan brother, please report it to me carefully. If this Jia Yan is so bold that even a Khan girl dares to do something, brother clan will have to deal with it." "Yes, brother and sister, Jia Yan did indeed come to the central star field of the Milky Way as the sister said, and disappeared a few days ago. It is rumored that the direction of his action is exactly in our core area. After the intelligence department, according to analysis, there is a high probability that his target is the clan sister." "Ah, this." The Khan girl's face instantly turned pale as paper, "That Jia Yan bullied others too much. He saw me as a pretty girl before, so he wanted to force a relationship with me, but I am already that girl. The wife of an adult has been married for hundreds of years. Now let me ask you, am I that kind of person? I must have flatly refused at that time, but I didn't expect that the son would be entangled with me. I blame the clan sister. I was soft-hearted and couldn't bear to reject his sincerity. After getting entangled with him, some misunderstandings arose, and I finally found an opportunity to escape from his sight. I didn't expect that the son would hate me out of love and threaten to kill me. I had obviously fled to the heart of the family. He actually dared to chase after him." Snapped. A table made of expensive materials was shattered into pieces under the massive bombardment. The man from the Kaidi clan suddenly stood up, his eyes about to burst. What a villain! He wants to be frivolous even to such a beautiful person as the clan sister. However, he is a late-level domain lord. Please tell the clan sister his limits. If there is a chance, brother, you will definitely seek justice for you." A hopeful smile filled the corner of the Khan girl's mouth. Then Jia Yan has only been on the lower level of the territory lord for a few decades. Presumably, even if he can stabilize his strength in the lower level of the territory lord, he will only be at the bottom. Brother, please make the decision for the clan sister. The Khan girl, or should I say Khan concubine, was filled with contempt in her heart. This coquettish distant clan brother is indeed as timid as a mouse. Since he has thoughts about himself, he actually needs to know the strength of the target before he dares to take action. Haha, he turns out to be a mere newcomer. So be it. I'll turn around and beg my father to take action. If he doesn't want to, I will bring my master to uphold justice for you. Thank you very much, brother, but this boy is a top master of subspace talent. If brother wants to find someone, please speed up, otherwise I'm afraid he will arrive before brother takes action. Then you may never see my face again. This, subspace talent. The other party's face looked strange for a while, and then after seeing CAI's dreamy insect face, all hesitations were forgotten. Clan sister, don't worry. Clan brother will move people soon, but before that, you have to be careful to hide. Didn't you say that the other party is a lower level domain lord? Then try not to meet him, as long as you hiding in this area, no matter how powerful he is, he would not dare to conduct a large-scale search here. After all, this is the elite place of many forces. Okay, clan brother, I will listen to you. You must come to save Xiao-kun, I will leave it to you. Ha ha ha, don't worry and wait for news from me, my clan brother. The clan brother seemed to fly out of this colorful land with a bold smile. The moment he left, the colorful space suddenly became gloomy, and the dreamy feeling deliberately created disappeared. Tell me, did Jia Yan really come to me? Concubine Kun continued to ask coldly. Yes, Jia Yan is indeed coming towards our area, but we are not sure whether he is really coming towards where we are. Maybe he is heading towards our Cai clan first. Hey, I know Jia Yan quite well. He looks like a ruthless man, but he rarely fights uncertain battles. Has he grown up in such a short period of time? How dare he start a war with me, the Cai clan? Concubine Kun snorted softly. The clan brother behind him said calmly, Sister, please don't worry, this clan is not something that a country lord of the lower ranks can defeat. If it can be defeated so easily, all the big families in the region have long since disappeared. You are right, but we must also consider whether he has other means or the possibility of coming directly to where I am. Then we will move. Yes, but sister, your husband seems to be waiting for news from you. Do you need to respond? Response? What else are you responding to? Didn't we personally catch him cheating? If there is no relative benefit in this matter, I can't change my mind, so just give him a cold shoulder. By the way, I might be sniped by Jia Yan. Tell him about the matter, maybe this guy is willing to take action? In this way, there will be more people to block that Jia Yan. Sister clan is truly a divine being. The younger brother, a member of the Cai clan, quickly complimented her, and seeing that Concubine Kun didn't want to say any more, he gently stepped back and left. Jia Yan. When one person was left behind, Concubine Kun looked at the strange sight of the white hole in the distance that was constantly spewing out endless energy. The endless light was swallowed up by the scenery, and then suddenly ejected from the jet port at the edge. The radiation flow was almost close to this beautiful garden-like land, which was refreshing. Excellent talent. It's a pity that his future does not belong to me. Otherwise, it would be okay to have a sibling relationship with you. He actually looks down on me? I'm afraid he hasn't experienced too many powerful females. What kind of wife does he look like? If I were here, I'm afraid this kid would be unable to live without me. Concubine Kun, who was very confident in her abilities and methods, thought of being rejected by Jia Yan. Although she pretended to like him, it still severely affected her self-confidence. So the feeling towards Jia Yan at this moment is extremely complicated. Especially talking about the age of this young super strong man, she almost wanted to go when she thought about it. He is really young, in the prime of life, and so powerful that even his family may look at him differently. He is simply the Prince Charming in the eyes of countless females. But too young. I don't know how to enjoy, I only know the so-called innocence and true feelings. Growing old together with your married wife? This is nonsense. Now Jia Yan is too young. It can be said that it is difficult for experts of the same level and even weaker domain lord level experts to understand the extent of his feelings. After all, there is too much age difference between them. I can't remember what kind of thoughts I would have when I was over 100 or 200 years old. So it is extremely difficult to deal with. Concubine Kun originally wanted to take care of such a child, but after being in contact with him for a while, she changed her original intention. Joining forces with those guys, and even making connections within the family, finally formed some calculations. Even Jia Yan's entry into the other world was not a so-called accident. The two parties have long been implicated, and the implication is extremely deep. Slowly moving towards the opposite side. Well, if he comes to take my life, I will not sit still and wait for death. If he wants to chew my flesh, I will let him chew the stone. I think this young man must have seen the ability of a real elder. After making connections, they will consider shaking hands with me and making peace. It is even possible that I will monopolize this young man for hundreds of years, no, it may be thousands of years, and we will marry him. If he treats me like that, how wonderful it would be to be deeply affectionate. Mrs. Kun has entered into a unique emotion and is unable to extricate herself. Click. A clock chimed. Deep in the lonely dark space, the giant mosquito suddenly moved. He is already deep in the subspace and has been practicing for unknown lengths of time. For him, this kind of time is no different from sleep. Well, after traveling through many dimensions, did you reach the core area in a few days? Very good. He silently looked at the surrounding environment, took out the alarm clock that was specially improved for the other world, and nodded with great satisfaction. He has wanted such a device for a long time, but unfortunately the power of subspace distortion is too strong. Unless it is stored in a device that resists the other world, ordinary equipment will be difficult to operate. On the contrary, it will be easily torn apart. The alarm clock in this hand is a material that has been searched for the characteristics of subspace for so many years in the other world. In the end, not only alarm clocks, but also many small objects can be used normally in relatively deep subspace depths. For example, this alarm clock reminds him to wake up at the scheduled time anytime and anywhere. Dragging out from the 10-dimensional space. The dark body of the giant mosquito is gradually exposed to the outside normal space. It's a top strong senior. I've met senior. A group of starry sky warriors who gathered outside quickly expressed their respect to Jia Yan with their eyes widened. Oh? What are you planning to do? No. Nothing. One of the leading stellar peak masters had an ugly expression on his face. Oh? I didn't plan to do anything. Are so many people going to plunge into the white hole jet? Jia Yan smiled jokingly. No, the leader said with a sad face, so that the seniors know that we are going to travel together to a gathering of a big power. If the seniors don't believe it, why don't we go together and use the strength of the seniors? That big force will definitely be ecstatic about the arrival of the senior. Jia Yan smiled, isn't it the CAI force? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3273. Huh. He noticed it? Let's fight. Kill. All the starry sky warriors had ugly expressions on their faces, and they roared crazily and rushed towards Jia Yan's direction. However, many people temporarily changed directions during the process and shifted their orientation. It is obvious that they all know Jia Yan, and even this gathering may be to deal with Jia Yan. The key points are not difficult to figure out. It's just that the information about Jia Yan's arrival was leaked, and the other party came to recruit experts to join the expedition. You know my identity and yet you dare to initiate an attack. I have to say that your courage is commendable. Jia Yan smiled and looked at some of these people who were not afraid. He saw his feet stabbing into the air, and the first master who faced him couldn't react at all. He was caught off guard and was about to be hit. I will not kill brave people. Suddenly Jia Yan's words changed. This blow actually emitted a beam of brainwave power, stabbing another strong man who had escaped about 1,000 kilometers away. Those who run away from battle are the most despised by me. For a moment, the whole place was silent. The ones who escaped ran away faster, but the attacker strangely stopped the attack at the same time, just waiting for Jia Yan's fate. This is also some kind of psychology. If Jia Yan were to kill anyone who had the courage to attack him, this group of people had that kind of courage and would naturally fight to the death. Although it is impossible to cause harm to Jia Yan, there is definitely a chance to delay his time. But those who escaped were some who were able to seize the opportunity to escape. This is not cost-effective for Jia Yan. It is better to adopt the strategy of releasing some and killing some. Poof. Jia Yan entered the subspace, and the strong men from the universe who fled in the distance exploded in the air. The torn corpses of giant creatures are so eye-catching in the void of the universe. When paired with the jet stream of a white hole not far away, it makes it look like a strange picture. I'm waiting for you. After Jia Yan showed such a unique skill again, the entire group sighed and chose to give up resistance. If they could escape a few people just now while someone was willing to die, then at this point, it would be impossible for anyone to escape. Very well, your choice is wise, but I want to know what exactly you do and who called you. Finally, Jia Yan added, don't play tricks with me. You must know that as a master of the lower level of domain master, he has a strong ability to distinguish whether your words are correct or not. Everyone was silent for a moment, and then the leader who had spoken before shook his head. Lord Jia Yan, we were invited by the Cai clan to deal with you. As for the inviter, he is a young master of the Cai clan named Lord Kishi. Lord Kishi? I don't know him, why would he deal with me? Is Concubine Kun involved in this? Jia Yan bluntly expressed his doubts about Concubine Kun. Returning to Master Jia Yan, Master An is a distant relative of Concubine Kun, and a direct descendant of the Kaidi clan. Recently, Master An has developed a lot of affection for Concubine Kun, so I suspect that this matter should be caused by Concubine Kun's affection for you. He became hostile, and Mr. Kishi chose to help him deal with you. I see, I understand, but it is impossible to simply let you go. If you attack a high-level strong man, you must also know that you must bear the consequences. But I am by no means one of those people who want to kill everyone. How about you stay and work hard for me for a few days until I feel better, then I will send you away. The expressions of these powerful men suddenly changed. The vast majority of them are equivalent to vassals of the Cai clan. As for the remaining few, although the relationship is not very deep, they are also people with big businesses in this White Cave area. If they turn to Jia Yan, their careers and families may be ruined. What? Don't you want to? No, Mr. Jia Yan, if you want us to go deal with the Cai clan, for the sake of the family's heirs, it is absolutely impossible for us to agree, because that would be the fate of destroying the 9 clans. If there are other things, we may still be able to do it for you. Please help me, this is a bit overwhelming. Jia Yan's expression turned gloomy. So, you would rather offend me than the colorful butterfly clan? I would like to ask Mr. Jia Yan to show his caution. Seeing their resolute attitude, Jia Yan didn't kill anyone. After all, if he puts himself in his shoes, he knows that if he were in his opponent's position, he would be able to surrender to the enemy and deal with the Cai clan. This is true. But he couldn't let them go easily. Let's see, you wait for someone to send the message back. I don't want you to deal with the Cai clan. The strength and heritage of this clan are indeed beyond your ability to participate. I only need you to help me lay out enough in this Beidong area. I want to develop a certain amount of power and influence here. Can I do these small things? Of course. If they are asked to sacrifice their lives, especially against the Cai clan, these people may really be unwilling to do so, but if they just help Jia Yan create a certain force in this area, they can be easily captured. After all, there are many people present, and each one may not have enough influence, but together, even the top forces in the White Hole area have to show some face. What's more, behind them is Jia Yan, the top master of the lower realm masters. Even the strongest force in the Beidong area may not dare to look down upon Jia Yan when they meet him. Some of the people present had clear thoughts, and after reluctantly responding, they turned their heads and turned around. They are not loyal supporters of the Cai clan, otherwise they would have entered the internal system of the Cai clan long ago. Since they need to gather, it means they are just vassals of the outside world. Since you can vassalize under the name of Cai's force, then it is the same as vassaling under the name of other powerful people. And Jia Yanshan said that his background may not be enough, but he is definitely among the top masters. What's more important is that he obviously does not have any subordinates or chess pieces in the Beidong area. If they are the first batch to join his command, wouldn't they be veteran-level existences? Although the process of getting to know each other is not that wonderful, the process is not important as long as the result is good, right? Which strong man makes subordinates who are not made with fists? They immediately came back to their senses and were overjoyed. This may be a blessing in disguise. Although they have to bear a certain amount of pressure from the Cai clan, they can wait until the Cai clan and Jia Yan are different before pouring all their efforts into one side. Since it's possible, you can tell someone. I will observe you and wait. If you do anything like a petition, you can go back. Okay. Everyone knows about such things as certificates of employment. Many people are very lazy when they use this method. At that moment, someone directly released the news and posted it on the internet, telling the outside world that he and Master Jia Yan were having an intimate meeting. In his words, he did not completely surrender to Jia Yan, nor did he explain his separation from the Cai clan. It is a very good way of speaking in the future. With these templates, the rest of the people followed suit and used online speeches to confirm that they were related to Jia Yan. They also contacted their subordinates and started the construction of the trade area branch. Master Jia Yan, is this okay? We really can't do more. After all, our influence in the Beidong area is only so great, and you must also understand that we cannot directly declare our separation from the Cai clan. Well, that's enough. You are the first to choose to release this news. You can leave. Secondly, it will be announced on the internet, saying that you are the first batch to have friendly negotiations with me. If the Kaidi clan gives you trouble for this in the future, you can come to me at any time. By the way, the affairs I have arranged must be reported to me every day. If the progress of any affairs is slow or there is a serious delay, I will personally come to your door to find trouble for you. Jia Yan looked as cold as ice. Everyone naturally nodded in agreement. Not long after, the group of attackers walking side by side with Jia Yan were inexplicably defeated by Jia Yan, and all of them inexplicably became Jia Yan's temporary subordinates. Then Jia Yan made arrangements one after another, and they were almost killed by people on the internet. Everyone sat down and surrendered to the enemy, and then they were released. In this way, we easily won the hearts of a group of subordinates. Jia Yan looked at the last master who left. He didn't have much joy on his face, and he didn't think he handled it very well. They just chose to stand on their side as a last resort. Everything still depends on the outcome of his confrontation with the Cai clan. If the outcome is not favorable to his side, this group of losers may definitely turn back to the Cai clan at any time. As for killing these guys, to be honest, Jia Yan is not very willing. After all, no matter what, this place is close to the black hole area and belongs to the elite place of the central star field. It would be very simple to kill them, but the energy behind these guys is destined to be huge. Even if not all of them have the background of a late domain lord, they are definitely involved in a lot. If you kill someone, no one will fight you strongly at the moment, but if you want to develop locally afterwards, it will be difficult. After all, when it comes to connections, no matter how strong Jia Yan is, he can't make everyone treat him directly. He doesn't have the connections with this group of star-level experts, so he has to carefully consider his future. The Beidong area is indeed a good place. If our trade zone can develop here, it will be a good profit point. Jia Yan had this idea in mind. He made such a decision when he saw the White Cave area for the first time just now. The energy seems to be free of charge, and it has a very wide range. Even if the good places are occupied by big forces, with Jia Yan's skill and ability, he can definitely grab a not too bad place. As long as he steps in, the trade area or Jia Yan himself will have an additional property in an important place in the central star territory of the galaxy. It is not just as simple as money. It means that he has entered a key place in the central star territory, which means he has with a pretty good identity and status. Money and cultivation resources will also develop exponentially at a high speed. Moreover, many of the goods in the inner world in the trade area are extremely popular in the Milky Way. If I can sell them here, wouldn't it be possible for a copy of the goods from the Milky Way to be popular in the outer world? Jia Yan thought about it and felt that his businessman's wisdom had improved. However, all this is too early to think about. For today's plan, we must first resolve the issue of the Cai clan. Judging from today's situation, I am afraid that the force behind Concubine Kun is the Cai clan who has not escaped. It is a pity that this clan has not escaped during the previous investigation. The strength shown is not weak, and if necessary, I would not want to stand against them. The Cai clan is definitely not weak. At least it is not weaker than the 5 major forces that have joined the trade zone. I am afraid it is stronger than a single force. On the surface, there is no lower level territory lord, but everyone knows that this ancient race is destined to have some background, and maybe there is still a lower level territory lord. At least there are ways to deal with the lower levels of domain lords. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I don't know why you came all the way. Just as Jia Yan was thinking about it, a voice came from the gate of the Beidong area where the Cai clan resided not far away. The corner of the white hole area occupied by the colorful butterfly clan is not far from the eruption point of the white hole. They grabbed a large part of the front end of the jet-like particle flow, and even had a machine to cut off a piece of the white hole's radiation power. The entire area was plunged into darkness, and this endless jet of energy was completely captured by them. The power of the white hole eruption is so terrifying. Just this small amount of power is enough for them to consume their own family's energy, seal it up, and then sell the energy to the outside world. In the interstellar era, those who control energy dominate the world. The Cai family is extremely rich because their family can make money by occupying this area. Although this has caused the descendants of the family to be lazy, and the family has gone downhill year by year, the legacy accumulated over the years is still there, and no one dares to look down upon them. This flyer is extraordinary. Jia Yan felt that the other party's strength had reached the peak of the intermediate territory lord, and was about to enter the senior territory lord level. And he is very young. Belongs to the category of first-rate geniuses in the central star field of the Milky Way. Are you, Mr. Kishi? After Jia Yan observed it for a while, he asked calmly. I am not Brotherin. Brotherin and I cannot be compared at all, but I believe that Your Excellency Jia Yan will not blame me because of my low status. The other party didn't feel any nervousness in front of a strong person, and spoke with an eloquent smile. This is the foundation of the power of the big family. It is impossible that they have not seen top masters before, and precisely because they have seen so many, every young disciple will not have stage fright. Very good. He has great bearing. He is indeed worthy of being born into a big family, but... Jia Yan first praised him, and then his attitude turned cold. If you and other big families think that I, who was born in the countryside, are easy to bully, then you are being exaggerated. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3274. How do you say this? Your Excellency Jia Yan, I don't remember what I said to offend you, do I? You have not offended me, but the so-called Mr. N of your family is gathering people outside to deal with me, right? I will explain this to you carefully. If you don't look down on me, you see AI Dai clan, why would a mere senior territory lord level master dare to plot against me, a lower level territory lord? You. The young man from Cai Dai clan, who was probably relatively young, showed a hint of panic in his expression. Didn't they just hold a meeting and discuss assisting Sister Kun and establishing a team to deal with Jia Yan with Brother N as the center? This horoscope is just the beginning, and everyone has noticed it? Who on earth leaked the secret? He didn't expect that Jia Yan, who just came out of the subspace, and bumped into the face of the team they were gathering, didn't know whether it was good luck or not. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I think there is some misunderstanding about this matter. Why don't you go into the station to coordinate it? No, I'll accompany you in person to coordinate. I also think it's a misunderstanding. Why don't you let me explain it clearly to Mr. N or Concubine Kun in person? Jia Yan said straightforwardly. But how can the other party realize his wish? Sorry, our Cai Dai clan's residence in the Beidong area is an important place within the clan. It is impossible for outsiders to enter. If Your Excellency Jia Yan believes me, you can wait at the Cai Dai clan's welcoming place outside. I guarantee that it will be done within a day or two. We'll give you the answer. 1 or 2 days. I can't wait for this time. And if you don't have any ghosts in your heart, why do you need a day or two to explain clearly? Or, is this time you waiting for rescue? Just say a few words. If this is an important place in your clan, I will give you the face to stop intruding. If you let those 2 people come out and make it clear in a few words, I, Jia Yan, will give you the face to leave. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please don't force others to do anything. Although this young powerful man from the Cai Dai clan was only at the domain lord level, he didn't feel like he couldn't let go in front of Jia Yan at all, and he refused very firmly. Forget it, I'll enter in person. It seems that this matter can only be handled a little tougher. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. We have to enter the so-called station. The base of the Cai Dai clan covers an area of nearly half a light year, forming a circle around the white hole jet stream area, absorbing the endless power. Naturally, defense cannot be touched everywhere, but just like the black hole area, there are certain powerful methods and technological means that completely isolate the entire area. The best way is to enter through several gates scattered throughout the area. Otherwise it will be a lot of trouble. Jiayan is the gate to enter a white cave area. Your Excellency Jiayan, don't force us to break with you. Hey, it's obviously you who are forcing you to go against me. How come it turns out that it's me who's forcing you to break up? Jia Yan was so angry that he laughed when he heard the words of the most powerful person in the world. If Concubine Kun hadn't inexplicably entered his career, Jia Yan would still be developing well in the Orion arm, and there would be no bi-family forces coming to attack him, let alone a tragic fight with the White Dolphin. Of course, although he had benefited from looking at the problem from a certain angle, after entering the other world, Jia Yan figured out a lot of things and suddenly felt that even his own strength improvement had some limitations. The concubine's influence was involved, which made him feel extremely unhappy. If an outsider interferes with the cultivation of a strong person, even if it feels like a mixture of good and bad, it will still be unacceptable to the strong person. No strong person can tolerate the interference of others in such a matter. Practitioners are generally people who want to live freely and control their own destiny. If someone else interferes with your destiny, even if the other person brings great benefits to you, it is definitely unacceptable. What's more, looking at the problem from Jia Yan's perspective, the Cai Dai clan should be harboring evil intentions. Therefore, he must nip hidden dangers in the cradle before his abilities reach the peak and before things have negative consequences. None of this is a reckless move, or in other words, none of the masters who have reached the domain lord level are reckless. Your Excellency Jia Yan, do you really want to embarrass me, the Cai Dai clan? You know, we and other big forces in the galaxy's central star region are not comparable to small rural forces. In the past, you single-handedly pushed down rural forces. This approach won't work here. The young man's words became serious. The one who has to be right is not me, but your Nai Dai force, right? Get out of my way. If you don't, I will be responsible for the consequences, Junior. This is simply unreasonable, Jia Yan. You claim to be a senior, but you are actually much younger than me. Please listen to our elders honestly. Don't do this. The consequences are not something you can bear. Noisy. Given the opportunity, since the other party is still stubborn, Jia Yan can only give him a small punishment but a big warning. Without exerting much force on his feet, he could only see the shadow sweeping, and the young man of the Kaidi clan was like a stream of light flying away, smashing into the dense energy next to him. Ahem, you actually dare to do it? The young man hugged his radiant chest, and there was a blood mark on it. So what if I take action? If I don't kill you, I'm already giving face to the Cai Dai clan. If you know what I'm doing, you can lead me to see someone. Don't even think about it. Now that this matter has begun, I'm telling you, it can't be a good thing. Jia Yan simply stopped entangled with the hesitant Cai Dai clan and flew directly into the so-called gate of the station. Warning. Warning, outsider, you have not been invited by this force, and you are breaking in illegally. Please hurry up, otherwise you will be attacked by all defense systems. The Cai Dai clan's station defense was naturally not covered. The moment Jia Yan broke into the gate, there was an electronically synthesized sound effect. This is the automatic defense system activated. Moreover, shrill sirens rang out in the area near the gate of the entire station. Defense systems. Just let me see what kind of defense system the so-called core area has. Jia Yan just wanted to see if the so-called central star field of the Milky Way had traditional defense capabilities that far exceeded those of the outside world. Especially in terms of the technological system, Jia Yan believes that this place must be fundamentally different from the outside world, otherwise how can the big forces defend Nyoda's territory? Can't these forces send top experts to every place? It can be done, but where did they get so many strong men? For example, the Beidong area is said to be the top priority of the Kaidi clan, but according to Jia Yan's prior intelligence investigation, there is no lower-level territory lord sitting here, because to them, the lower-level territory lord is also what is extremely valuable, and even announced to the outside world, is that the Cai Dai clan no longer has any lower-level territory lords. But how do they rely on to defend themselves against the outside world's covetousness for the great power of Nyo? There must be something to these defense systems. Bring it on. Before Jia Yan finished speaking, he saw endless smoke of gunpowder rapidly spreading in the gate area. Jia Yan's eyes were fixed for a moment, but he was somewhat moved to find that behind him the moment he entered the gate, there was actually an open area used for defensive operations, which was filled with fortress-like metal objects. A large number of defensive technology items, as well as defensive artillery fire, electromagnetic turrets against strong ones, etc., are scattered throughout the area. It's such a tight defense. It has some possibility to deal with ordinary senior domain lords, but just this, it's not enough to deal with a junior domain lord. Rest, rest, rest. Before Jia Yan had time to look at it in more detail, he saw a large amount of light suddenly bursting out from the entire defense system. With the laser flow at the speed of light, countless energy shines on the surface of the Jiayan giant Mosquito's body. The most effective and most unsolvable ability of the technological system for the strong is the only thing in the power of science and technology that the powerful cannot overcome: light-speed weapons. Just 300,000 kilometers per second, this speed is incomprehensible to experts who have reached the lower level of Territory Lord, and may even be above the lower level of Territory Lord. After all, no strong person can move at a speed exceeding 300,000 kilometers per second in an instant. If he can exceed it, he will definitely have the strength of a lower level domain lord. Unless Jia Yan penetrates into subspace, it is absolutely impossible to escape these beams. But he was undaunted. Most of the powerful people will not be moved, and more will sneer at it. Except for some extremely special radiation-type light weapons, for masters above the stellar level, these laser weapons can only make them a little hot, not even scratching the itch. Of course, all the major forces have made different types of laser weapons for the strong, but lasers, which are wave-particle dual characters, are quite unique. If you add some materials or something, they will not be able to reach them. The speed of light, because it does not belong to light, but if you do not add any ingredients and just shine the light on the body of a strong person, not to mention the masters of the late domain masters, even ordinary humans, under the right circumstances, will be illuminated by you all the time. You won't feel anything even if you are wearing it. In other words, the lethality of light-speed weapons is too weak. Now Jia Yan is not afraid. Poof. The beam hit Jia Yan's exoskeleton, unable to stir up even a ripple. But Jia Yan was slightly moved. So that's it? Did they combine the speed of light radiation with the vibration to correspond to the wavelength of the strong man's body, so that they have a certain degree of lethality? It's a pretty good development direction. It's a pity that this ability is not good for me. It's almost useless. If Jia Yan were an ordinary life form, he might really be afraid of him. Even the ordinary masters of the lower level of domain masters were irradiated by so many beams of light that they could not dodge, and then stimulated their own wavelength vibrations, causing physical injuries from the inside out, and they were afraid that they would have to use other means to defend themselves. But he is different. He is an evolved beast. To put it bluntly, the body is not different from ordinary living bodies. He evolved again and again, and each time he adjusted his genes perfectly. At this point, his body no longer belonged to the physique that natural life can possess. So these shocks were no different to him than scratching an itch. Of course, even other strong men would not be too troubled by this. Those who can reach the lower level of domain lord have no shortcomings to a certain extent. Otherwise, they would not be the lower ranks of domain lords. Presumably the other party would not think that such a high-end laser weapon could withstand Jia Yan's invasion. Warning! Warning! Boom! One foot sharply pierced the inside of Nyoda's metal fortress. After a moment, this defensive fortress, which could be called an art of defense, exploded like a paper lake. Jia Yan used the power of brain waves to ignite the weapons arsenal inside the fortress. In the large swaths of fire, his body passed through the heavy flames and slowly walked out of the gate area as if taking a walk. The first defense system was broken through, but visible to the naked eye, there were still a large number of defense systems rising in the starry sky behind. At the same time, in the entire Cai clan's camp, the sirens that were blaring in this local area just now turned into powerful and shrill alarms that resounded throughout the entire camp. This is the highest level of alarm for the Cai clan. It means that the station has an unprecedented enemy coming to attack. Someone broke in. Who? Did you actually trigger the highest level of alarm? Last time 10 families in the White Cave area attacked together, none of them triggered this alarm. Information has come from the outside. It is the so-called new lower-level powerhouse that has stirred up public opinion in the central region in recent years, Jia Yan. Jia Yan is here to kill. Isn't he a low-level master from the countryside? Why did he suddenly come to kill our Cai clan? I don't know. Anyway, I got information that this guy suddenly went crazy and entered the south gate alone. Alone? What the hell? Does he look down on our Cai clan? Or is he here to die? The powerful person of the lower level of the territory lord is not that simple. There is news from the south gate. It is said that the first defense system was defeated by it even after it failed to hold up for a moment. These country lunatics are really unreasonable. No matter how strong they are just a group of barbarians who only know how to use brute force. Stop talking so much. The higher UPS want us to go over and discuss countermeasures. Let's go. It's more than half a light year away, enough to kill him for a long time. Hurry up and organize the manpower to prepare a response. The Cai clan's residence is not a success just by breaking into it. The interior of the entire station is more than half a light year in diameter, which is quite large. Moreover, there are many internal defense systems, and each place has its own defense methods. Even important places have their own strong defense methods. In other words, breaking through the gate of the station is nothing, because there is another one inside. A new world. Is there a new defensive fortress showing up? The Cai clan has a very deep heritage. Jia Yan once again solved a dozen defensive fortresses, but the overwhelming new defensive fortresses ahead were still emerging like an ocean.